massively hung, and you're like, great, I get to hate you even more.
They got a Jeff Rust hog down there, and it's like, oh, really? You of all people got blessed with the Jeff Rust genes. Damn it.
You know how I know Jeff Rust is hanging with bigger tools than me?
Oh.
He poo-pooed Barry Sanders' dad in the Barry Sanders Prime doc.
Yes, he did. We went over that because you had mentioned that you could see Sanders' dad's unit in the documentary.
He's wearing 1970s skin-tight pants in a photo when they show his dad at a much younger age.
Yes.
And it's there. It's just like an arm across in the pants.
You texted that to the group chat about you could see this, and then I watched the documentary, and I'm like waiting for some like shot in the documentary of him coming out of a shower. It's like I'm waiting to be like this giant thing flashing across the screen, and I'm going to be scarred. And so I missed it when it happened, and then we went back and rewound, and we paused it, and we zoomed in on watching Amazon, and you could clearly see it. Jeff Rust not impressed whatsoever.
He's like, meh. And I'm like,
I've seen better.
I think I literally...
Every day.
You want to know we don't have an HR person in the building, Swag. I literally turned to him when he went, meh. I went, how big is it? Just tell me how big yours is.
Started doing the hand thing, going wider and wider. How far are we going here, Jeff? How far are we going?
You cannot poo-poo Mr. Sanders' unit and tell me that yours is bigger than that thing.
With the D. Oh.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
I would like a round of applause for myself this morning. Didn't watch one single second. Had no idea what was happening in that football game last night.
I only saw a score.
Yeah, I didn't know about it till you guys text.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
I was just on social media. That was the only way I saw. There was not a single redeeming quality of that football game.
I'm literally right now, I'm watching highlights on Get Up. This is my first look at what happened in that football game.
How cool is that pick six,
That's
though?
a great pick
on the
six.
screenplay. I think Mina Kimes had a tweet that was like, it's a major bummer that play happened at that moment of that game. Because that's one of the cooler pick sixes that has happened all year.
Yep.
You always wait for those screen passes for somebody to jump in front and pick it off. He just happened to do it when it was 56-0.
Fat
and
guy
nobody was watching.
Yeah, imagine that happening in like a big, massive game.
Cowboys and Eagles last Sunday night, 14-14 third quarter. That's your pick six. The internet would have exploded, but it happened in that game and 14 people were watching.
In this business, you get people that are very disingenuous. It drives me crazy. You get people that get on this microphone every day in different cities and nationally, and they try to zig when everybody else zags.
Yes. That's
why I like doing NFL Zig or Zag. That's my own little secret of why I wanted to do that segment.
Who's zigging and who's zagging?
Exactly. And I'm not meaning to do that here, but I'm being very honest. Having not watched a second of that game and seeing the final score, I found myself last night not watching the game, not following anything on Twitter, thinking and just kind of feeling sorry because I know we're all celebrating that Herbert's going to have a new coach, and
at least we assume. He hasn't been fired yet.
A guy is literally going to lose his dream job at some point today or in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And it's just weird that the entire world's like, hell yeah! and look, he's not deserving of it,
he
but
hasn't done anything to justify staying.
But I disagree. He did take them to the playoffs last year, and I know they blew the big lead.
Did he?
He gets credit. He's the coach. What's Belichick doing without Brady right now? Right. So my only point is this. It's not to say he doesn't deserve it. It's just I kind of found myself feeling very human for somebody I don't care about Brandon Staley. I'm not a Chargers fan. It doesn't behoove me to stick up for him. And yet I actually find myself feeling a little human for him because for like 7 weeks now, all people talk about is that guy should not have his job. And he may never get that dream opportunity ever again.
He's done. He's never getting a head coaching job again. Why would anybody hire Brandon Staley to be a head coach? He's supposed
Josh
to be.
McDaniels got a job.
He's still pretty young.
But Josh McDaniels had the benefit of working with Tom Brady.
He can go be a D coordinator for the McVay again and have a great defense. Well, maybe he's figured it out this time.
His defense sucks. That's the reason they're losing games. Look, I see your point about head coaches getting credit. I also do find the Belichick example funny because what does everybody say now that Brady's gone? He can't win without a quarterback. You need a quarterback to win. And a lot of people give Brady far more credit for that run than they do Bill Belichick. There are I always crack up when there's like an accidental campaign ad that happens. This happened in Congress a couple of weeks ago. There was a Republican that stood in front of the House and ranted like, what have we passed? What have we done that's going to advocate that the American people should vote for us in the next election? And he was doing it not as, meaning to be a slam against his own party. He was just trying to like, hey, wake everybody up. Let's do some meaningful things.
Pass my legislation.
Exactly. And Democrats saw that and were like, well, thanks. We're going to put that in campaign ads. That was an accidental mistake, but we're going to use that against you. We appreciate that.
Right.
This was like, if you needed a campaign ad for Justin Herbert, you just put that game on. Yeah. Did you realize he had the second longest game played streak in the NFL for a quarterback? Josh Allen was the only guy longer. They've been holding that thing together with duct tape and like chewed up gum.
Finger splints.
You take him out for one game, the first game he misses. Ooh. That's what it looks like. Ooh. That's the product that you put on the field. Everybody quits because they know they don't stand a chance in hell to win when he's not in the lineup. And there is zero effort. There's zero intensity. The defense is terrible. The Raiders scored 3 points last week against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. They scored a franchise record 63.
63. 4 days later. They scored 63 in an NFL game.
Yeah, I saw I did see Mina Kimes say Herbert MVP ?
Like, what are we? Can we stop the criticisms now? Look what Cincinnati's doing without Joe Burrow, and look what happens with the Chargers without Justin Herbert. It's one game. I understand it's an apples to oranges comparison, but for anybody who thought he was the issue in L.A., you can just go ahead and sit down and shut up now.
The one thing I would say is, and Swag, I think you'd be inclined to answer this as well because, this is your new team.
My new team.
I'm not pushing anything against our old Justin Herbert pal, but I do wonder if these seasons, these experiences, sometimes I worry that quarterbacks of certain ages this is his molding into the NFL. Hey, welcome to a hell where you're going to throw for 380, 4 touchdowns, and we're going to lose this game. Like, over. And every time, I feel like every game he's played, almost every week, I can read some blurb for the first time in NFL history. No team ever has.
Yeah.
And that's the following ending to every sentence of almost every single one of his games. I don't worry that he can be great. I worry just pressing bad habits, kind of like, oh no, I have to score or I have to do this, or just the overwhelmingness that situation has got to leave him feeling as a young, impressionable quarterback. I worry a little bit that they've maybe broken him somewhat. I know that sounds insane. He's still throwing good numbers, but I worry about it.
It can all be fixed with the right selection, the right hire as the next head coach.
You're not wrong, but let me interject here. Do you know what a problem for them is?
That up,
do you know what a problem with them is? They're massively over the cap next year, and so you wait until they gut this entire thing, and it's going to be, hey, Herbert, throw to Stevenson. Who's Stevenson? We got him in the 7th round. He's cheap.
He's your number 2 target now. Have fun.
And if you get the right coach, I think we've seen the right coach can change things quicker than people think. Look at D'Amico in Houston. But what I would say, though, also is that it's not always a guarantee.
No, it's a lot of pressure on ownership and management to get it right. Because as you mentioned, their salary. I mean, they spend, I think, a percentage of their payroll this year. They have the largest percentage spent on defense of any other team. It's first or second.
Yes. They're like the most expensive team in football. Yes. It's crazy.
Which is why Brandon Staley's not for, and Tom Telesco should be fired.
I agree. I agree with that. You need to do a full clean. Yes. You cannot be keeping one with the other.
Their big signing 2 years ago was J.C. Jackson, who was so bad that they had to trade him back to New England and pay New England to take him.
That happened this year.
I know. That's how bad it is.
That was like $82 million.
We talked about that when it happened. Like, hey, J.C. Jackson's a pretty good corner. Look at that run. That's a good signing for the Chargers. How about that? They're doing smart things. And he was a dumpster fire, and they had to trade him back to New England and basically paid a good chunk of his salary just in order to finish that trade-off. His career was done as a head coach, in my mind, 2 years ago in Week 17, ironically, or 18. I can't remember how many games they played. Ironically, in this matchup. Like, we all forget that they had a game in the last week of the regular season in which if they tie, they go to the playoffs. They were in overtime against the Raiders. The Raiders wanted to tie the game. They would have gone to the playoffs. And Brandon Staley called a timeout. The Raiders said, oh, You want to call a timeout?
Great.
Okay, we'll go kick a game-winning field goal, have fun in the offseason. The Raiders went to the playoffs and damn near beat the Bengals in the first round. That was 2 years ago, man. And then you blow a 27-0 lead in the playoffs last year, and then you have this season when you're supposed to be a defensive head coach. The tough part on your angle from Herbert, and I was thinking about this last night, what he's had to deal with. I think this is year 5 for Herbert, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be going into year 6. They still haven't fired Staley, so let's wait until see that actually happens.
Is that right? Is this year 5?
I believe so.
Yeah, because
it's been 5
he agreed to his extension in the offseason.
We're gonna die soon, dude. It's crazy how fast it's
Let me
gone.
double check that because I want to make sure.
I'm not poo-pooing
No,
it.
I wasn't sure if it was 1, 2. No, this is year 4. Year 4, touche. But he's going to be, here's the argument, though. It makes it even better. He's going in next year to year 5.
Mm-hmm.
This will be his 3rd head coach in 5 seasons. When you look at all the other quarterbacks that you rank near the top 10 of the NFL, go ahead and start playing the game in your head. How many head coaches have they had in their career? Mahomes, 1. Josh Allen, 1.
Lamar.
Joe Burrow, 1. Lamar, 1.
Yeah.
Go
Dak. I mean, you want to go Dak in this year, 2.
Only 2. Aaron Rodgers, his entire time in Green Bay, had 2 head coaches. Now he's on his 3rd because he moved to a new team.
Hurts, Purdy. I mean,
1-1.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's remarkable what he's had to deal with, yet we find ways to criticize and blame him for their shortcomings when clearly it's an organizational failure.
Certainly, I don't think anybody would disagree with that last line right there. Old Andrew, I think the unfortunate nature of that business, I think we're seeing this a little bit with Dak, and I'll throw myself in this too. I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong on things. I don't know if I trust Dak to win the Super Bowl this year, but he's had a great year. He's followed up a struggle bus of a year and an awful ending in the playoffs last year with a fantastic season for himself. Unfortunately, the nature of that beast is when they get those contracts, I'm sorry. I don't want to hear about the special teams coach whose special teams is ranked 18th in the NFL. It's a lot of that blame just goes to those guys. Even when it's not, we all watch it. It's not always the quarterback. How about the defense? But those guys they get all the love and they tend to sometimes get most of the blame.
It's funny, too, because when they hired Kellen Moore, that was also viewed as a good move. And Dallas's offense this year has gotten better without Kellen Moore.
Yeah, I don't know if we have tape on the air with. I feel like I did, but I always kind of thought he was a little overrated, the Kellen Moore thing.
I mean, when Dallas moved on, it was, good luck, McCarthy. Yeah. You're going to call the plays now? Old Sleepy Mike, and how's that working out for him? They look pretty damn good.
What I would give Mike McCarthy a lot of credit on is he's gotten out of his dinosaur ways on 4th down, and he's actually passing the football. Everybody was worried they were going to run. Yeah. 2nd and 8, run. 3rd and 7, and that's not been the case at all. He's gone completely the other way. So I'll give Mike McCarthy and Dak their flowers here. Is there an obvious name? I think that's another thing. We brought up Belichick. I don't know how real that is. He might want to stay on the East Coast.
I don't know.
Is there an obvious name? See, that's the other part is you can rant and rave about Ben Johnson. How the Lions offense looked the last 3-4 weeks, kind of making me go, damn, this is really bad. I don't know what the obvious hire is, but Charger fan, Swag, you're one of them. You might not care anymore. You might just be like, I just want to be out of that.
Yeah, he's got to go.
That was I'm so glad I didn't watch that game last night.
I am too. I seriously didn't watch a second of it, and I didn't see a highlight until this morning. It's great.
No point to. I started laughing my ass off when I saw the score was 42-0 at the half, because that does not happen very often in NFL games. Games like that, they were at one point leading by more than 55. And they ended up not winning by that amount. But Bill Barnwell had a tweet. There had only been 4 games in the history of the NFL in which a team lost by 55 or more points. Wow. Only 4 times in the history of the NFL.
I loved his everybody gets blown out. Which, you know what? He could have gone and used another team. I know they try not to say coaches' names and teams in press conferences, but he couldn't be like, how'd the Broncos fare in Miami this year, huh? What was that, 70-0 or whatever?
70-20 or whatever. It was a very similar score in that one.
It was, and they turned it around. It's
Look at that. Oh. We still got a lot to play for. No, you know, your quarterback's out for the rest of the year. Your team has quit on you. The second a team quits on a coach, that's like the biggest red flag that you could ever have. And he's not wrong. Blowouts like that happen. That one was because the team quit, and that's why he needs to get fired.
Well, we have a lot to get to today. I have to turn the heater off in the break because it was freezing cold when I walked walked in here this morning. But it's, geez, I'm already sweating. We have a lot to get. We Sprague the line today at 8:30. Matt Stahl at AL.com covers Alabama Crimson Tide. Roll Tide at 7:30. The Michigan playoff look ahead that we'll get to. Did the Texas UW one yesterday. And I got a lot of NFL. I got some NBA to get to, but I want to start the show here. A gift for Swag and a question for Dirt. We'll start there. Dirt and Sprague, good morning. Happy Football Friday on the Fan.
and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
I'd like to shout out my wife, who alerted me yesterday that doing a show next to dirt highlights how even more white I look on a camera. She says, "Why are you so much whiter than him?" I said, I went to the store and I picked it out. I don't know. What do you want me to say to that? I'm pale-ass white.
I got those Nebraska corn roots, man. We're farmers out there. We're out in the sun all day. Our forefathers working the land.
Yeah, Sprague's got a little more
shucking the corn.
Scandinavian genes in you.
A lot of Irish, like English,
there you go.
you know.
Dirt's
cold.
pale. Is there a little Mediterranean in the dirt?
No, I'm actually very Swedish, but they all moved to Nebraska, and then our skin got burnt permanently, and so we're all just a little bit darker.
You know, that's a depressing thing to say out loud. I went from Sweden to Nebraska. All right, what a choice. Good for you.
Sweden's got some good stuff going on, man.
Hell yeah,
Victor Hovland went from
Sans
Norway to
World War II.
Stillwater. What do you want?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound great either.
Good old Victor. I love Victor Hovland.
I wanted to do a segment for both of you here.
Okay.
My first one is a question for old Andrew Dirt Johnson.
Yeah, what do you got, Bob?
Buster Posey says the Giants don't get free agents because your city is run down and awful, and everybody's scared of San Francisco now. There's human feces on the sidewalk, don't you know?
This is so stupid.
This is your GOAT. He's coming out and saying your team's screwed because your city's run by a bunch of lib idiots.
That's not what he's saying at all.
There's tents and poop everywhere.
I saw a clip. There's our sister station down in the Bay Area. There was a caller that called in that started ranting about Buster Posey and said, "You're not from here. You're from Georgia. You're not even a real San Franciscan." I don't know if that's how you say it, but I'm running with it. Like there was a guy that ranted about go back to Georgia. You're not wanted here anymore.
Go back to where you came from.
There was one of those, right?
Love
the ironic part about all this is the problem with media in 2023. He didn't say any of that.
He told Andrew Baggerly.
He moved when he retired back to Georgia, moved his entire family back to San Francisco because they missed the city and they loved the city so much. He now lives in San Francisco. He's a part of the ownership group.
San Francisco or San Francisco proper?
I don't know where his address is. He lives in the general area and he's at games. He's a part of the ownership group now. And he's like a front office guy, like, hey, come sit in on our meetings. He was asked why he thought they couldn't get Shohei Ohtani because they said they offered Ohtani the same deal the Dodgers did.
That is the
Ohtani
report.
was going around saying, this is what I want, deferrals, blah, blah, blah. And the Giants said, yeah, dude, we'll do that. No problem. And he said the tough part that we have right now is there is a perception out there amongst free agents that this is what our city is. He did not say this is what San Francisco is. He said there's a perception when I sit down with free agents and we try and convince them to come here that this is what they think the city is. And we tell them, no, it's not that bad. Every major city has this, but they don't listen because they don't live in the city and you don't realize how cool it is until you actually live there. He did not actually put down San Francisco. It was a bit of a clickbaity headline.
It was, and I'm thanking you for the correction there because I also saw the real quote and I just loved like Ken Rosenthal was doing hits and he's like,
they got a city problem.
They have a
Dude,
city
this is
problem.
the dumbest thing that's ever existed. The problem with them right now is their rival is a team who is unmatched in baseball. If you're going to choose a team who you would rather play for, who are you choosing? If I were a free agent, I would choose the Dodgers. When was the last time the Dodgers missed the playoffs?
It's been a long time.
Long time. They win 100 games every year. The only year they didn't win the division in this entire run, it took my team winning 107 games, the most in franchise history, and then they lost to them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like it's not a city problem. It's not a tax issue because the Dodgers don't have problems signing
LA
guys.
doesn't have their
Exactly. It's like they're just a better organization than you. And if you're choosing where you want to play and winning is a priority, I'd love to think that my team has the ability to win, but it's not even close. It's not a competition.
I would echo this. I've been to both. I love San Francisco. I think it's a really cool city. It's gorgeous. It is way too
one
windy.
of my favorite road trips during basketball season.
It's
great.
Yeah, but it's also too windy. That Bay Area gets a lot of wind, and that's why Los Angeles edges out for me.
It's warmer.
It's warmer.
It's a little warmer.
I like that a little
like
more.
the crispness. Go out and visit the sea lions there on the wharf.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Let me ask you, how much Ohtani presser stuff did you consume?
I watched quite a bit of it.
They told him in a meeting that this has been a letdown run for them. And he said that was the thing that stuck out because they've made the playoffs every year and won a World Series.
Called it a failure.
And they called it a failure. And he said that's how I know they care a lot about winning. They also picked up some pitching help yesterday with Tyler Glasnow from Tampa. So I'm at a point where I want to admit something out loud, but I wanted to know how much Ohtani stuff you consumed.
I flipped over to it. I didn't quite catch it quite from the beginning, but I got the bulk of it when the question and answer was going on with his interpreter. His interpreter needs a haircut, but oh well.
Does he have long hair?
Is he growing?
It's
I didn't
kind
see
of
any
floppy,
of it yesterday.
weird. Just trim the bangs up.
Okay.
Maybe that's a cultural thing.
It's a
It
cultural
could
look.
be.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
Then you have to walk that back as a white man.
It's racist of you, Jason Swigard.
Hey, listen, as somebody who has had his share of bad haircuts, I'm speaking from, or lack of haircuts.
Getting Glasnow, I don't know if they're going to get Yamamoto. Sounds like he might go to the Yankees now.
It's
is what
possible.
I saw.
The Glasnow, basically, the only thing is they're negotiating a contract extension. So
That was part of the deal. Yeah.
That's
I'm
part
sure
of the
that's
deal.
going to be a big hang up.
So they'll
They don't have any money
figure
left to
that
spend.
out.
Oh wait, Ohtani's giving him back
Yeah.
$68 million a year.
Dirt, I don't know where you're at with your team. Like I like my team, and you can call me whatever you want, but I'm pretty close to wanting to boycott the season. Like,
well, here, let me try and spin this positively for you. Okay?
wake me up when it's September, and I'll catch the end, and then we'll get to the playoffs, and I'll be like, woo!
Yeah,
But you should. Who's going to challenge in your division? Well, the Phillies, but
Phillies are good.
The Phillies have knocked us out for 2 straight years.
The Mets are a dumpster fire, though. The Marlins,
The Marlins
they're a fine
they're
little
a scrappy
story.
They're
little
sneaky.
team, but-
They kind of hang around.
Sneaky little team. Nats are in a total rebuild.
they're
So the
all-
rest of the NL East isn't great. Here's the good thing we got going for us. I'm with you generally on baseball. I'm going to watch my team play because it's going to be in April and May, and we got nothing else on TV, and I'm going to watch all my team's games.
You think you're going to watch all the games?
I mean, not all of them, but if I'm just sitting around the house and I got nothing going on, like
you're watching
baseball's
120 games.
you have a newborn. I mean,
Yeah, you know,
in this
my-
scenario, you got a kid throwing up on you.
He's just pooping. He's sitting in the corner. He's pooping. All right. We got to start him young, even though they're going to suck this year. We're going to train him on being a Giants fan. Michael Conforto's going to win the MVP. Let's go, Beavs. Here's the best part, though, about this season for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Is that if they win the World Series, we can all we just laugh at them. Like, yeah, congratulations.
You did what you were supposed to do.
How did you not win 15
Right.
of these in the last 15 years?
Yeah.
It's an embarrassment that you haven't won an actual World Series. So we get that easy in our hip pocket. And if they don't win, we get to point and laugh in their face. Like, you still can't win. You added Shohei Ohtani and Tyler Glasnow. They're not done. They're going to go get more
I know,
pieces. This is just the beginning. They're easily the best team in baseball. There's nobody that can come close. But something that you ranted about in October should give you hope this year that being the best team doesn't matter. The Braves were the best team in baseball essentially all season long. What happened when the playoffs started?
Oh, got screwed.
It's over. Like, this is the beautiful thing about that sport. In the NBA, if this team existed, nobody would touch them and they would sweep in the NBA
This is the
Finals.
Katie Warriors.
This is the Katie
This is what
Warriors.
it is,
That's
yeah.
not the way baseball works. They got a great shot at winning it, but it's not guaranteed, and we get to laugh at them if they don't win it.
You know, that's a good response. That's a good
Congrats
way of
on
viewing
buying a championship. That's what it took, really?
I know he disagrees, and he will to his dying day, but I'm telling you, there's going to be lacking a little something if his team does actually win it.
It's Kevin Durant on the podium.
I saw him thank the Angels for all the memories.
Thanks for the memories.
Like, what memories? Leaving nobody on base when you're up or stranding you at second. What's the memory that
All those solo home runs.
What's the best memory you think he had in LA with the Angels? Like, what's his best Angels memory? Because I think it's being stranded at second.
I don't know.
Good inning, guys. Good inning. Good inning.
Lonely.
Got one guy on base. One guy on base. Nobody could hit me in. You mentioned the Herbert stat earlier. That's what the Angels have been for 5 years. You would get those, like, Ohtani and Trout went combined 6 of 8 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs, and the
lose
Angels
10-4.
became the first team to ever lose a game that way.
Swag, I know you heard it. You didn't interrupt. I didn't interrupt, but I think we're thinking the same thing in the moment. I love just thinking now it's in May. I love the idea that his kid's just pooping his pants in a corner and he's just
pooping.
watching baseball quietly and casually. You have
Put him in the pack and play.
no idea
Sit him over in the corner.
the hellscape that child is going to put you through. It's the 4th inning, and you're just, "Wah!" and you're going to give him everything, and he still won't stop. And you will literally be thinking, Should I shake this thing
I'm shaking
until
this
it
baby.
stops?
I'm shaking this baby. It won't
Don't
stop
shake the
crying.
baby.
No, you're
Don't
not allowed to
shake
do
the
that.
baby.
You
You're not allowed
want
shake
to.
the baby.
Don't shake the baby.
See, here's where the good silver lining is for me.
You're going to call your mom. I've given him everything.
I got nothing left. I'm giving him whiskey at this point. Here's the best part, though, is my team's going to be so bad that I'm probably going to want a reason to walk away from the television. Like, oh, God, they're losing to the Dodgers again, 9-0. All right, the baby's crying. That's at least a glimmer of hope.
So instead of shaking him to be quiet, you actually shake him to wake him up and piss him off.
Come on, start crying. It's 7-0 in the third inning. Ohtani just hit his third home run.
We need a rally cry. Real life rally cry.
Turn this thing around.
Coming up next, accountability still needs to be held for this team. I'm sorry, it does. I'll tell you who it is next, but first, Swag with the sports update.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Big's Chicken. Try their smoked and fried wings tossed with a perfect dry rub served with a killer trio of sauces. Online at bigschicken.com. First on the Fan. It was just an absolute debacle for the Chargers in Las Vegas Thursday. Without Justin Herbert, the Bolts committed 5 turnovers, allowed the Raiders to score a franchise record 63 points, including a pair of defensive touchdowns. 63-21 the final. And the noise just keeps getting louder over Brandon Staley's future as head coach in L.A. Blazers were glad to have DeAndre Ayton and Malcolm Brogdon back in the lineup, but they could not stay with the Utah Jazz. They got run out of Moda Center, 122-114 in a game that they trailed by 33 in the second half. Portland will host the Dallas Mavericks Saturday night at Moda Center. Oregon and Oregon State officially announcing their agreement to play each other on the football field the next 2 seasons. The Ducks will visit Corvallis September 14th next season. The Beavers will head to Autzen September 20th of 2025. Now, just after the Dodgers officially introduced Shohei Ohtani to the local media, they agreed to a trade with the Rays to acquire starting pitcher Tyler Glasnow and outfielder Manuel Margot in exchange for pitcher Ryan Pepio and outfielder Johnny DeLuca. The deal contingent upon Glasnow signing a contract extension with L.A. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on every game at Spirit Mountain Casino with a sportsbook powered by BetMGM. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you
you, yeah, it's Friday, 'cause I've been working all week.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. We'll Sprague the line at 8:30. Matt Stahl of AL.com will join us. A Bama-Michigan playoff preview.
Roll damn tide.
Roll damn tide. I got a bet with Ken Barkley.
Yeah, what are we sending him? A made-in-Oregon gift basket? Is that what we decided on? They lose?
I'm actually a little uncomfortable knowing or thinking about how expensive that is.
We can go halvesies on it.
We'll help you out.
I'll chip in.
You don't need to. I was the one being loud.
No, it's more
in
of a.
his face.
Yeah, I like having Ken on. He's a really fun guest.
We can send in some fine Willamette Valley Pinot.
Well, there you go.
Hopefully, there's one in that basket.
I also think you're going to win the bet, though, so I'm not too worried about it.
Okay.
I like your. If I were betting on that game, that's the side that I would bet on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you're far more comfortable betting Bama and Saban almost against anybody.
Yes.
Maybe even Richt and or not Richt, Smart and Georgia.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a cowboy vibe right now with Michigan, where it's like, yeah, I know you're good. You're good every year, but what happened when you played TCU last year? They were a 2-touchdown favorite in that game.
Dirt, I know expectations are not good, and I know we're leaning into the draft at this point as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
But for the first time all year, our beloved Trailblazers were favored in a game.
Yes, they were.
They were 3.5-point favorites against the old Utah Jazz.
Lauri Markkanen not playing.
And
Isn't he their best player? Is he their best player?
Sexton, Kessler.
Okay.
It just depends the
In the
night.
mix,
He's
being the best
definitely
player.
in the mix.
Okay.
And Utah came into Portland last night, and I know that we had a listener say they only lost by 8. I'm like, well, that's
You didn't watch the game.
that is not what I saw.
I turned it off at halftime because they were losing so bad.
They were down 33 points, and they got booed at halftime going into the locker room. There's not going to be many moments like this during the season, so I'm going to do the segment. They actually had an expectation last night. Win the freaking basketball game. They completely no-showed. Shaden was atrocious. Ant was garbage. The only good thing, I think, was maybe Scoot's final stat line.
Yeah.
Yeah, career high points and assists.
Other than that, nothing. Defense was trash. Offense was trash. That was a pathetic performance.
There was no defense being played.
It was like they didn't try last
No,
night.
they weren't getting back. Utah's like, we're running. It was a layup line there for a while.
How many of those Scoot numbers came in the fourth quarter, too? That's the other tough part with it. Like, I'm happy to see him have a good game.
That's a fair question.
He wasn't lighting. I didn't watch the second half because it was over and I turned the game off.
It was on the second screen.
He was
I'll
not.
look up how many he had.
He was not lighting the world on fire in the first half. I'll just say that. So I saw that he had a double-double, and I thought, good for him.
I think in the third quarter when it got to 33, he was starting to just keep it himself a little more and not dishing it off.
Which is, hey, that's great for his development. He should do that. Work on your, attacking angles and finishing boot. Like, work on all that stuff, dude. You're down by 30. This is an embarrassing game at home to the Jazz. It was a bit of a glimpse of what potentially could come. I have not watched a lot of full Blazer first halves this year. A lot of their games have fallen on football nights or there's something else going on. I'll check in the second half. I haven't watched an entire first half in a long time, but I boycotted Thursday Night Football, and I said earlier this week that I was going to sit and watch the first half of Blazers Jazz, and I did. And boy, oh boy, buddy, there was nobody there. There was no energy in the arena. It just was, that was about as low as you could get, and it was unfortunate because they had started to build a little bit of optimism with the way that they were playing. The fact that team thought that they could walk into the arena against anybody and go through the motions and win because they're playing the Jazz without Lauri Markkanen. Like, do you know who you are? Do you realize that despite the fact that you're competitively losing games, you still suck and this is your place in the NBA? It was a bit of a reality check. And when they make moves at the deadline, man, get ready for that empty arena. There's no Damian Lillard to save you at this point, and there's going to be a lot of empty seats and a lot of boos, I'd imagine, in the second half of the year.
13-2 were his second half numbers. 13 points, 2 assists.
Okay, so he had a lot of assists in the first half.
He had
That's
8
cool
assists
to see.
in the first half.
That's a good little first half.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's also, like, I looked up tickets. I thought about going to this game last night and just being a little tired for Friday's show. Man, I looked up tickets last minute, and they were still, and because this is very douchey of me to say, so I'm well aware you don't need to add commentary to it. I just don't want to sit in the 300 section ever again in my life. No. I'm either getting a good seat or I'm not going. It's kind of where I'm at personally.
Yeah. I've reached the same conclusion.
Well, especially if you're going to watch, I mean, TV coverage is so much better. And
well, I mean,
go
look,
to the bathroom.
All the power to everybody. I love that we fill that arena when they are worth filling up the arena for. So I looked up decent seats, and you're still charging me $180. Get out of here. What am I watched them. They got down 30 points. They were down 92-60 in the third quarter.
To the Utah Jazz.
I had to turn it off. I did. I had to turn it off. I have to do a podcast on this team, and there's an entire quarter of a game I didn't watch. Oh, they outscored them 38-19 in the fourth.
Yeah.
You mean when Utah quit caring?
That was the very definition of garbage time.
Literal garbage time.
If you want to look up the definition of garbage time in a dictionary, they'll show that quarter.
Final thing I'll say, because we don't need to linger on this topic much longer. This team
the Kraken game was
sucks.
much more enjoyable.
There you go. You could even have enjoyed the Charger game more, and just like, hey, the Fire Staley game.
This is funny.
We're not going to have many moments there. I don't know when the next one will be this year. Maybe when the Bullets or the Wizards come to town in a couple
Pistons.
weeks.
When do they play the Pistons?
Yeah, when the Pistons come to town. But like, you're finally favored, and that's what you do. That's an embarrassment, and I hope more people don't go to games. Boycott this team.
Yes, you should not give them your. If the tickets are truly that expensive still, that's an absolute joke.
I looked up Wemby tickets. You mentioned that when we're off.
They're playing the Spurs twice in the week off, or the week after Christmas.
The cheap game is the first game, and those cheap tickets, if you want to sit in the top of the 100 section, you're paying like $250.
Yeah, no.
Get out of here.
For the love of God, why would anybody spend that money?
To say they saw a really tall man.
Wemby's not going anywhere, man. He's going to be in the NBA for a long time, we would imagine.
Yes.
Like you're just flushing money down the toilet. Imagine thinking I'm going to go watch them win a game. They're playing the Jazz. They're playing good ball. This should be an easy win. I'm going to spend $150 on 100 level tickets for that game, and that's the effort that you get.
It felt like watching somebody piss their pants. I'm like, what am I doing with this game? I don't know what I'm doing watching these guys play.
I gave it an old click of the power off on the TV and said, I'm going to bed. This game's
it was
over.
on the second screen the entire game. Didn't listen.
Did you keep it on the whole game?
Whole game. Because it's just there.
Yeah.
So I was seeing who came in late. The only thing I was actually curious about, because I didn't have the sound up, because the Kraken were just scoring at will against the Blackhawks, and it was wonderful. What the hell were those little blue things that Calabro was eating at halftime?
Oh, I missed
Gummies.
that. I don't know.
I mean, how else would you call those games?
That'd be great if they were.
No, but they had
There's an
samples.
NBA announcer rule. If we're down by 20 at halftime, I can take an edible for the
Lamar
second
wouldn't
half.
touch it. Calabro popped one in, and they were showing people eating them at halftime.
That's either a gummy or Viagra. I will not hear any other case of what that substance
looked like
was.
some sort of Jello shot is what it looked like, but I don't know what it was. I don't know if you were still watching at that point.
I missed that.
It was coming right out of halftime.
I'm going to tell you right now, he's definitely in my top 3 of if he could pop an edible, I'd love him to for calling these games.
Oh, Kevin Calabro would be very entertaining on an edible.
He'd give you so many anecdotes on this team and his Sonic years.
Yes. Funny sayings and phrases. I'd be all for that.
Well, that's nothing like my guy, Big Smooth, Sam Perkins.
If you want me to watch the second half of a Blazer Jazz game, that's what I demand now, Blazer Broadcasting.
I don't want Kevin Calabro to hate me, but that would be a great poll question. If Kevin Calabro popped a gummy, would you watch the Blazers second half and games are down by 30?
All new meaning to get on up for the dance.
That's right. Now we're talking.
Lamar having to react to a high Kevin Calabro. I don't know, Kevin.
What did you just say, Kevin?
All right, we have a lot to get to. Oregon State. Interesting day for them yesterday. Let's talk about it next on The Fan.
The Fan.
Road's been a hell of a test. I'm still driving. I ain't slowing down.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
We'll get to NFL game of interest I want to talk about, and then I want to dive into some Oregon Fiesta Bowl teasers. Ooh. I have a question for Duck fans out there I'd like an answer to.
That Stat Award guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he does those like number graphics for all the bowl games. I saw the one for Oregon and Liberty. You want to guess what percentage chance Oregon has to beat Liberty in that game?
I think they've got a 94% chance to beat Liberty Bibberty.
You're going to go 94, Swigard?
94.
I'm going to say just because, like, right about 90.
It was 98.2.
Oh, my goodness.
Bo Nix is playing. They are going to house that
And
team.
Liberty had their two best defenders opt out of the game.
Dan Lanning is not going to let his team lose a bowl game against Liberty.
The guy is if he's got enough horses, then yes, it should be a stampede.
Enough of the Oregon Duck talk in our Oregon State segment.
Sorry, I'm hijacking it.
Beavs have a schedule.
They do have a schedule. I want to get to a couple quick notes, and then we'll dive into the schedule. Aiden Childs is official. He did choose Michigan State.
Yes.
I saw a headline yesterday. Curious your thoughts on this? Number one portal quarterback picks MSU was the headline. 24/7 had him in the number one portal quarterback, even right now, and the number two overall portal player. And so Michigan State, Jonathan Smith reunion with old Aiden Childs.
It's an interesting ranking.
I know. I didn't know he was ahead.
I've seen those. So Walter Nolan's the only guy that's
was
ahead
the
of him.
number one.
No, Walter Nolan's the number one player in the transfer portal.
No, I
class.
thought Gabriel was the number one quarterback.
It's currently.
Oh,
currently.
okay.
Currently. Well, even that, if you look at those same rankings, I think 24/7 came out with them, and I think they had Gabriel as ninth. The argument for that is you only have 1 year of Gabriel.
Oh, okay, touche.
So I think it's you're going off the potential angle because I think 24/7 has Dante Moore, the number two quarterback in the portal. So they're going that long term. You get 3 years of a guy. We think that he can turn into this. I mean, he's an unbelievable player. Nobody doubts that, but he's still an unknown commodity. I think he's going to have success, but I'll maintain the opinion. I know you and I disagree on this. If I were him, I should say, I don't know what other offers he was getting. I would have been very curious to been in that room and to hear what programs were calling and who you said no to go to Michigan State.
It's a good offense. It's a coach he trusts. I don't blame him at all. And he's going to start right away, and he'll have 2 to 3 years in the Big Ten. We just disagree a little bit on that. I think Michigan State is going to be fine. I think Jonathan's a great coach, and I think the guys he took with him was a really big pickup. The Beavers are in the market for a quarterback. Malik Murphy of Texas. Mm-hmm. Evidently, Oregon State is in the mix for him.
That would be quite a pull if they get that.
They offered him out of high school. He has a tweet out there that everybody was retweeting yesterday and bringing it back. But they are one of like 6 teams in the running. I did see a 24/7 guy say, watch Duke here. But Oregon State mentioned amongst the teams that he is, choosing from in the portal.
Certainly helps that you have a schedule. You're going to play Oregon and Purdue at home. So
you think that's why he's choosing Oregon State?
No, I'm just saying they got a schedule. You have this is concrete. This is what we're doing for at least the next couple of years now. You don't have to answer that question.
He's an interesting case study because he is another highly touted guy, younger, has some eligibility left, did not play very well when he came in this year for Texas. Texas skidded a little bit to the finish line. And a big part of that was because Quinn Ewers was hurt. He started, I want to say, 2.5-ish games in there, or played in 2.5-ish games towards the end of the season. Numbers weren't great for him, but I think you're going the potential angle. He has a past relationship with Manny Diaz, and that's why Duke is kind of listed as the favorite right now. But if Oregon State had the past relationship, a lot of these guys are looking for an opportunity to play because once you transfer at this point, you're not going to have the ability to transfer again until you graduate. And so you're not going to go somewhere without kind of a guaranteed wink and a nod. I got a chance to play right away. He clearly would probably get that at Oregon State. I think it's one of the reasons Ty Thompson is also looking at them. These guys have an opportunity to play. They need an opportunity to play because they weren't going to get it at their other schools.
Well, their schedule was released finally. We still have some things to sort out with dates and whatnot, but here you go. Here is the schedule for Oregon State. August 31st, they play Idaho State at home. September 7th, they're at San Diego State. September 14th is the Oregon State Civil War that won't mean anything anymore.
And 90-degree weather. Get ready for that one.
Yay. Feel the mojo of conference alignment. September 21st, they're home against Purdue. And then September 28th, they go on the road at Cal, and that's where it's super open until November 23rd when they play Washington State.
Yep.
Their home games in between UNLV, San Jose State, Colorado State. Their road games, Air Force, Nevada, Boise State. Those are TBD, but their schedule was released yesterday.
No real big surprises on here. I think if I were an Oregon State fan, I would be a hair frustrated because they seem to insinuate over the last couple of weeks that they were going to have 5 Power 5 games on their schedule. That was their goal, and that at least gets you to about the halfway point. You got an Idaho.
3.
Yeah, you got. Well, I think they're counting
Washington
State as one.
There's not 5 conferences. I hate to tell people this, but it's a Power 4 now until that conference either gets revived or we stick with 4.
By that metric, they only have 3, and that's a disappointment. You got Cal, who they could beat Cal. Cal's nothing to, not the greatest program in the world. You get Purdue at home. I don't really know what to make of Purdue going into this upcoming year, and obviously you get Oregon State at home. So at least 2 of those 3 games are at home. You get Washington State at home. I think that's good for fans that they're going to get those. If you're buying season tickets, you want more of those than you want, UNLV and Nevada or Utah State. But when you tell everybody the weeks leading up to it, we're going to try and have a half a Power 5 schedule, and you only come home with 3 or 4 games, depending on how you look at it, that would be disappointing to me as a fan.
I had a listener send me a tweet and say, look at San Diego State sending out their Mountain West schedule, and they put Oregon State's logo on that, but they put a tiny asterisk next to the logo. Like, it's tiny, but it's just weird looking at, like, here's our Mountain West schedule, Oregon State logo, but technically that's not a conference game.
It's not a conference game.
We're not in their conference. They're not in our conference, but here's our conference schedule, and Oregon State's on us with an asterisk. It's just that was a weird approach. I saw that yesterday. I'm like, what? Why would you do that?
They also, and people noticed on the Oregon State, when they tweeted out their schedule, the graphic of it, they included the Pac-12 logo at the bottom of the screen. It still said Pac-12.
Well, I think that's going to be the logo. It's like the Big 12 when they had 9 teams. I don't think they're going to change that. I think that's like jerseys and helmets. It takes a while to change that.
Okay, trademark stuff and all that.
Well, I think their ultimate hope here is to get the other conference to basically get absorbed by theirs. So maybe they have 12 teams again. I think that's the thinking.
You call it the Pac-12, keep the same name. I saw that and I thought, oh, we're still all right. I didn't know if that was still going to be there, if we were going to just erase the one, and it was still on the screen there.
I'm still waiting. It should be noted the defensive analyst for the Raiders had himself quite a game last night, as we talked about with the Charger game. That would be Keith Hayward. Should be noted, Kerry Eggers reported about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I can't remember. Keith Hayward has been hired as the D coordinator. They still have not announced that. I don't know if that's a handshake and a wink and the season's done in like 4 weeks and then we'll announce it, but that still hasn't happened officially. He's saying that who's the D coordinator is.
Be a nice little hire. He's obviously got Oregon State roots. That's the whole theme of the staff. I don't know if I'm going to argue about the last couple of weeks. I think playing backup quarterbacks helps a little bit with the Raiders, but he's been around college football for a long time. Weird, though, that in some of these hires, you got to wait for the season to be over. He's not just going to walk away from his job, and that makes recruiting and transfer portal stuff a little tougher, unless he's just doing it behind the scenes from Vegas and they haven't announced it yet.
But he's an analyst. He's not even the coordinator of the Raiders.
That's why I would say, why can't you leave now? But that's the argument that I've heard from people of why he hasn't left, is because he's waiting for this season to be finished.
We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the show. I got an Oregon Duck question that I want to get to, but we start the second hour. A massive game in the National Football League. How we're feeling about the matchup next. Hour 2 on The Fan.
At Joe
Mash the subscribe button and like us for live streaming video and 1080 The Fan on demand. Dirt and Sprague on Football Friday on 1080 The Fan.
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app, follow 1080 The Fan, and enable push notifications to get the latest on the Ducks, Beavers, Blazers, and more.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2, Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, and YouTube.com/1080 The Fan. We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the radio program. The Vancouver Ford text line, where you can reach us with thoughts and opinions, the hatred, the love, whatever it is you're feeling today. You can text it in. If you're mad at somebody else, throw it at me in dirt. We'll be your wingman.
Take it out on us, man.
That text line is 503-864-6326. That is, of course, the Vancouver Ford text line. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them for more info at vancouverford.com. We really need to take those away from you. They're becoming a crutch. I mean, you're not even talking anymore. You're just responding with the D. Oh, roof daddy. If you missed the first hour of the podcast, you can catch it at the Service Patriots podcast section at 1080thefan.com. Catch all the local shows, the weekend shows, the night show, every show that exists on 1080. You can find at the Service Patriots podcast section. They've got a special offer for our listeners at servicepatriots.com/thefan.
I don't want to hijack this segment, but can I throw a conspiracy theory at you?
Sure. I'll put the tinfoil hat on.
Okay. So I saw this yesterday. I forgot to bring this up in the last segment. We were talking about Aiden Childs going to Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what week Aiden Childs started playing the third series of every game?
Do I remember the week?
Like when Jonathan Smith started doing that.
Was it week 4?
It was week 4.
Oh, okay.
What happened in the fourth week, or actually, excuse me, what happened in the third week of the college football season at Michigan State? What took place?
The coach got fired.
Yes.
Okay.
The very next week,
They played Washington that weekend, right?
They
Wasn't that
did.
their first game?
They played. That was their first game. He was on technically leave, I believe, at the time of the Washington game, and then that week they fired him. The very next week, Jonathan Smith started playing Aiden Childs the third series of every game, and there was conspiracy theories out there on social media because
he already accepted the gig.
He knew he was in contact. He knew he was going to move on. He'd assumed
That's a great conspiracy.
Aiden Childs was going to follow him, and then randomly just started playing him the third series of only the third series.
Yes.
One series a
One
game.
series scripted.
And then when he got to the end of the season, knowing it was all done and he had signed the paperwork and he was moving on, what game did he not play him the third series in?
The Civil War.
Don't want him to get hurt last week of the year. I'm taking the job tomorrow. I can't risk an injury. What if this guy tears his ACL? I'm going to Michigan State. He's my savior. I saw that conspiracy theory yesterday, and I don't know if I'm fully buying into it. It's a bit tinfoily, but I thought, you know what? That's well done, well created.
Look, we've talked about this before, and we've shared what we've heard or what we've been told by people. I do think these things happen a lot sooner than people think. Like, they don't just happen within 2 weeks and it's like, boom, he's hired.
Yeah, it was not just the week of the Civil War.
Barnes has said, like, he's obviously a hot commodity. We wanted to lock him up long term because there were teams coming after him for weeks. Mm-hmm. Weeks. And if you're publicly willing to admit that your agent should be taking phone calls, it kind of lends itself that... Look, he has denounced the reason, but he's also kind of acknowledged it in a weird way. He poo-poos the fact that their conference uncertainty was any part of his decision. And in the same way, I forget what he said, but he had a phrase where basically he acknowledged that the uncertainty was a big deal. So it's like, it didn't matter, but it does matter. Anyways, I think it mattered a great deal.
Yes.
I think that guy knows I don't want to coach Mountain West football. My athletic department's been given a tough hand, and I don't know how they're going to navigate out of this.
I'm out.
Too much uncertainty. Bye-bye.
You also can't say that when you get to your new job because then it discredits why you took the new job. If you say the reason I left is because of conference realignment, when you go to a new job, you have to say I had to leave because this job was too good to pass up.
Well, the other problem, too, is if you're uncertain about what your future is and a Big Ten team has their sights set on you and they're going to pay you a pretty penny and give you these resources that your current school just doesn't have, You don't want to lose any of the staff that have helped build you up, right? Did you see who went? It's guys that he fully trusts. Now, he wanted Bray. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, he did.
And Bray said, it just kind of all happened quick, and I didn't know, and I felt weird about it. So he didn't leave, and he wanted to be head coach. But, I mean, he took tight ends coach. The offensive line coach, again, is one of, if not the best one in the country. He was going to lose those guys if he stayed at Oregon State. That's just, these other schools would have offered him more money. And so he jumped early. Now, did he leave that early? I wouldn't dismiss it. I mean, again, I've shared this. We had KT he called me in September, the year Mario left, in September, and said, you know that Duck guy's gone, right?
He doesn't even know his name.
And I went, where's the Duck coach? He's gone. I was like, where do you think he's going? He goes, he's going to Miami. And I'm like, come on, man. He's not going to Miami. We've heard that. He's like, no. It's happening this time. And I'm like,
my guy out on the yacht. I was fishing.
I got a guy who knows
He knew a guy who knew a guy.
No, but like to his credit, he
was
goes,
right.
He goes, trust me, I'm hearing from the right people, and this is going to happen. And you can call and thank me for telling you this in September. Mario was gone like 4 months later.
Yeah.
So I think some of these conversations with agents and teams absolutely start far earlier than we'd want to hear. Did he in his mind know he's going to Michigan State at that point of the year? That I don't know. Maybe he did. It very well could be possible.
It was just very unique that all of a sudden Aiden Childs started playing one series a game and one series only.
You know what's funny is having watched every game and every snap, I didn't even think about when he started playing series. And in my head, he had done it non-conference.
Well, you had a couple of blowouts early, so he got in garbage time in the blowouts, obviously. But when it came to like the early on in the game thing, it started about the fourth week of the season, and it started being one series a game. That's what he would get. A little bit of development. Show me what you got. See some looks. Okay, we're going to get you out of there.
I like a good theory. I don't know if I buy this theory to the full extent at which you're presenting it to me.
I also
It's a really well done theory.
It's a well cooked up one. The most interesting aspect of it, though, for me still is, and we didn't really talk about it much because there were so many other things coming out of the Civil War this year, was that he didn't play in the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And I remember being at the game thinking to myself, why isn't, and then you just kind of move on because then Smith leaves and then all this other stuff's happening. So you just kind of move on mentally. We never really talked about that. He did not play in that game.
My read
and I
on
saw him warming up on the sideline too. And I was like, damn, it was my first time seeing him in person. Big, tall, impressive athlete.
My read on that, Jonathan was gone at that point. I mean, he can say whatever he wants. You don't game plan when you're going through those contract negotiations. It's impossible, dude. It just is. Those guys have to basically shut their personal lives off. Coaches, they have to be living a mostly unenjoyable experience. I know they make good money. I know they got big mansions and they got all this free gear and but they also lock themselves in those buildings for 14 to 15 hours a day. I'm a dad who's off at 9 a.m. And I can tell you, I get hit with dad guilt still.
Yes.
So imagine you're gone 15 hours a day. You're just not parenting. And so those guys need that kind of time. There was no chance he was going to be able to negotiate while his agent was doing it and game plan. My read on that situation wasn't Aiden's health. It was kind of a wink and a nod to the Uyunglele family of, thanks, DJ, for choosing us. Go play against your brother for the whole game. Big Dave's in the stands. He wants to see it.
Interesting.
That was kind of my read in the moment. Okay. Maybe your theory is more correct.
That's not even my theory. I just found it I love a good conspiracy theory, and that was a well-cooked-up one.
Sports conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy.
We should know. Yeah.
Frozen envelopes, rigged draft lotteries, like that. I'm all in on that kind of stuff.
That's about the full extent. Maybe some JFK stuff I'll dabble in.
You'll dabble.
I'll dabble.
Is Tupac dead? I don't know. I'm watching YouTube videos. He might be alive.
Pretty sure he's dead.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There's a really convincing guy on YouTube, dude. He's been in the Bahamas for 20 years.
Another Elvis sighting. We should... I come up with a lot of good poll questions in my head that I never end up posting because, I'm lazy and I'm like, I don't want to see nobody vote on this. Has there ever been a moment, Swag, in the history of radio where somebody goes, I don't want to hijack the segment, but... and then the segment isn't hijacked? No.
I knew that one was going to be. I saw that yesterday, and I had a little thought bubble, and I started thinking about it at home, and I thought, there's something there. I don't know if it's true, but there's something there. You at least have evidence to back up your claims that this could have been an argument that made that he was doing this to develop Aiden Childs because he knew he was moving on, and he wanted him to be ready to start next year. Because here's the thing. You and I could disagree on Michigan State. I think that's a tough uphill climb. That roster has been gutted. Not that it was great to begin with, but they've had, I think, the most, if not the second most players enter the transfer portal.
Well, it needed to be gutted.
Sure, that's fine, but you also then have to bring in that level of talent back, and they so far have not been able to
Not
do
in year
that.
one.
Not in year one,
Not
but
in
I'm
year
just
one.
saying, at Michigan State, if you come out and you go 6-6 next year, 7-5, like the grumbles start immediately at a place like that, man.
Well, let's put a pin in that, because that's another place I think we disagree. I don't think they're going to be very good next year. I think there's a lot of really good Big Ten teams.
And the Big Ten is significantly more tough now. They have a conference game
They don't
at
think
odds
they're going to be
year.
very good because their non-conference schedule is blah.
And I think that's the thing is I don't.
Their big non-conference game is against Boston College.
Right. They should win that game.
It's on the road. That's the only thing that could make it interesting.
If they're 6-6, I actually think that crowd would be, hey,
So, yeah.
all right, you're one. We went to a bowl game. Like,
The middle of their schedule is a gauntlet.
And it's going to be a gauntlet
It's
every
Ohio
year.
State, Oregon,
Yeah.
Iowa, Michigan.
you're not going to win those games. You're just not. You can.
And then at the end is the middle, the
It's like the
soft
Iowas,
underbelly.
right?
It's
Like
like
the-
Illinois, Purdue,
Yeah.
Rutgers, and something
And
else.
some of those games, that fan base is going to say, like, let's not lose to Purdue here. We got your quarterback. It's
Yeah.
your, like, here we go. But I think for the most part, if they're like 6-6, 7-5, I think that fan base
They get a
would be
soft
happy.
opening. They have an early game at Maryland, this conference game. And then it's Ohio State at home, at Oregon, a bye.
And they got
Iowa, and at
Michigan, yeah. And then next year, I'm just going to pull up 25 because this is, to me, I was going to get to this on an angle today from the SEC of just how our expectations are going to change in college football because of schedules. Like they go on a run, they have to play the next year at USC, at Nebraska. We'll see what they are that year.
Yeah.
UCLA, I don't expect much from, but Michigan's on the schedule. Iowa is always, as bad as they are offensively, a tough defensive team. Penn State, like it's just, I'm just saying it's going to be an uphill climb.
I agree with that.
And I don't know what I would hope that they would be realistic and say we're Michigan State and this is a total rebuild and it's going to take us 3 or 4 years to get there. But I don't think a lot of fan bases have that perspective anymore in college athletics.
Well, you hijacked the segment, so I'm going to punt my Duck fan. Are you going to the Fiesta Bowl segment? We can hold that for Monday.
They're begging people to go. Bo had to do a video.
That is actually exactly why I wrote that on my show sheet. I'm like, when you have to pull Bo Nix into an advertisement, that tells me most people are like, Liberty Bibberty, no thanks.
Good matchup. People are going. Nobody wants to go see Liberty. It's unfortunate. Phoenix is great. I'd love to go get some sun this time of year, but I also don't blame anybody for not wanting to spend money to go to that game.
So we'll hold that maybe for next week and talk about that a little bit more because next week is our last week before the holiday.
Yeah. I'll see how much they're actually pubbing it locally, just the event when I'm down there.
Well, my angle was I went to a Duck team store yesterday.
Yeah.
And
Can't find any gear.
I was pretty disappointed, actually. No offense. It just, hey, $88 for this T-shirt. Here's our Disney character section where Mickey's holding up the O because we have to pay Disney a licensing agreement because we can't come up with our own mascot. So we're just going to pay to take yours. And here's our Disney
And
section.
don't call them puddles.
Well, it's not as.
Hey, don't be mad that your mascot's a nutria, okay? Don't
No,
take it out on us. You're
I-
mad at your dad. You're not mad at me.
I
we
actually
still
looked
have
around and I went, oh man, the people who created Michael Jordan's aura also created all of this. These people are awesome, man. But I got a buddy a gift for his birthday and I was in there yesterday and I saw Fiesta Bowl merch and I went, nobody's buying this, right?
It sucks, dude. It's horrible.
Liberty?
I know.
Ugh. No, thank you.
It's not, thank God Bo Nix is playing. That's all I'll say about that game.
Yeah.
Good. Thank God. Bo Nix is now.
Thanks, Forrest Gump.
He was already an all-time legend. Now he's even more of an all-time
Yeah,
legend because
touche.
if he was not playing, you would be playing a walk-on quarterback in that game.
All right, no more interrupting my segments. Let's get
All
to
right, shut up.
I want to get to an NFL game. We'll do it next on The Fan.
The Ducks get their postseason marching orders.
But unfortunately.
Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
I just caught wind that Nike made a new Kobe shoe. The Kobe 6 is famous because there's a Grinch edition. They're doing a reverse Grinch. So the green is on the shoelace and the whole shoe is red.
Wow.
And they're
I
claiming.
just know they dropped some new shoes because there was a line around the block at the store that my son works at in Bend.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Today?
Yesterday. After the show, I'm driving down. I'm like, why is there a line around the block at his store?
It would be for something like this. This shoe is going to be a very hot commodity. They claim they've made like 6 times more than the normal amount, but nobody's buying that. They're going to sell out of this thing, and nobody's going to get them. It's going to be one guy that gets 98,000 pairs.
How have we not figured out a way around that for things like shoes and then tickets? Because this is a massive deal still with tickets where you get these, people in these little Discord rooms. I'm just making up words now to pretend I'm smart, but they buy all the tickets and they resell them.
Yeah.
Like, how have we not figured out a way around that?
Bots. The bots are the problem, yeah.
Why can't we solve the bot issue?
I don't know.
Somebody get on that.
I thought Elon was going to solve that, and then he got Twitter, and it's gotten worse. And I'm like, I thought this was your big thing, free speech and no bots.
Yeah,
and I got more bots here.
I got a lot of porn bots liking my tweets from like 4 years ago. Thanks, Elon.
Yeah, and that, when that happens, it lends itself to me wondering, like, I've never in my life, hand to God, I've never thought about it, and I've never purchased followers. Why am I being spammed by porn bots?
Yeah, what's going on here?
Did something happen? I don't know.
I think you're looking at too much porn, Dan. Stop looking at all that porn.
Do not look
at all those big butts on your timeline.
No, I do not.
Check out these cheeks.
I do not know. What? No, I do not do that. Matt Stahl is going to join us for a Bama-Michigan preview. But I wanted to talk.
Is that a swag laugh?
I can hear a little chuckle from Swag.
Somebody chuckling.
Bills Cowboys this weekend.
Big one.
1992. I think. This is an interesting matchup because you've got a red-hot, quote-unquote, Dallas Cowboy team.
Yes, you do. 5 in a row. The only other team that's done that currently is the 49ers.
On the road at a desperate, coming off a great win, Buffalo team. I don't know how to feel about this game because my take is Buffalo very well could win, take care of home field advantage. Okay. What's the thinking and narrative if the Cowboys lose? Because we know when they win, it's like, oh, these are a Super Bowl team. And then when they lose, they should bench Dak. And I know it gets extreme, but like, what is the proper opinion for Dallas right now for you guys? Because my take was good little win against the Philadelphia Eagles. That was big for Dak.
Yeah.
Because they largely lose that game. But they also played at home, and every evidence of data shows us they are not nearly the team on the road that they are at home. They're a bit of Oregon State, I think is how you referenced them, and I think that's a really good comp. At home, they're a juggernaut. On the road, not so much. I'm also kind of thinking they need to win this. This game, to me, is bigger than Philly. Because beating Philly is good. It's impressive.
You also caught him at the right time.
You caught him at the right time. And I want to see you do what you did a week ago. Go do that on the road in a hostile environment against people that slam each other through tables and a team that has to win this game.
The ironic part about Dallas is before that win over Philly, their best win on the year.
The Commanders, the Giants, it's one of those,
Seahawks,
right?
maybe the week before, 41-35 on Thursday. Like, they didn't have a win over a team that was a contender.
They were lucky, by the way, to win the Seahawks game because Lockett catches a ball, they win that game.
And they were up and down the field, back and forth with them. So
they were.
Kickoff temperature, mid-40s. Wind between 10 and 15 miles an hour, 90% chance of rain in Buffalo.
See, that's all right, Dak. Like, I'm not saying Dak can't win
playoff
MVP.
conditions.
Yes,
how do you perform?
Yes.
How do you perform here?
Well, the other thing, too, that they have hanging over their head a little bit is everybody's patting them on the back for beating Philly. We're patting them on the fanny, if you will. If Philly wins out, Philly wins the NFC East. If Philly wins out, they have the tiebreaker. They will, if they win out, have the tiebreaker over Dallas. And so even if Dallas wins out, they need help to win the division. If they don't win the division, what do you have to do in the playoffs? You got to go on the road.
Your first one's a gimme at the NFC South
you're gonna
winner.
Get some dud in the first round.
And then you're going to have to go to Philly or San Francisco or something.
Good luck. And that's when we find out. This is a massive game for Dallas. If they want to be taken seriously as a contender, they have to win this weekend.
You said wins out. I know if they don't win this week, it changes. But right now, if they stay lockstep with Philly, this says Dallas has the tiebreaker.
No, according to everything that they said on the broadcast on Sunday night, eventually Philly would have a better divisional record. And
Because there's more divisional games.
They
for
have more
Philly?
divisional
Okay.
games. Dallas, I don't believe.
Right now, it says wins tiebreaker over Philly based on best win percentage in division games. So that theory could be correct. What are you guys with me on this? I don't want to sound like I'm just downplaying a big win for Dallas, but like this is kind of a bigger game to me.
No, I said
going
this
on the
before
road.
the Philly game. Like, talk to me if they go to Buffalo and Miami and give a similar performance that we've seen at home on back-to-back Thursday nights. If they do that, and even maybe if they split, but they play well in both games. I mean, Buffalo sounds like the weather's going to be crappy. If they're back and forth up and down the field, it's a field goal. Okay, whatever. And then they go to Miami or something like that. As long as they show up and it's competitive, it's like, okay, this looks different than previous editions of this group.
So did I interpret what you just said correctly? It sounds like if they lose on a walk-off field goal, you're going to go, good job, Dallas. That was impressive.
Well, I would not impressive.
You really see Buffalo, like maybe they will, but it's hard for me to mentally see Buffalo housing Dallas. I expect Dallas to show up. Will they win? I don't know, but
well, we'll see.
I'm not
It's a
giving them
tough
credit
spot.
for a close loss.
No, I think we're past moral victories with Dallas. This is a tough spot for them, man. Like they're coming off an emotional high last weekend on Sunday night. That was they were looking for a win like that all year. They finally got it. That's as high as that team has been all season. Now you're going on the road in one of the toughest places to play in the NFL in bad weather against a team who we all think maybe is a dark horse in the AFC, who, by the way, is out of the AFC playoff picture if they started today. They're not even in the playoffs. This is a team that is fighting for their lives, who I also think has been playing better the last couple of weeks. You look at Buffalo's losses over the last month.
They're brutal.
They're brutal losses that they could have easily won. The Denver game was like 24-22. The Philly game, they had no business losing that one in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago. They're playing better football right now. And so this is kind of a put up or shut up game. I don't look at the Cowboys as serious contenders because I don't think they can beat San Francisco. And until I see them beat San Francisco, I'm not waffling on that opinion. I think they're a good team. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. They just have a juggernaut that's standing in their way. If you want to try and slowly convince me, it probably won't do it. You win the next two games. You go into Buffalo and you win, and you go into Miami and win. Because if there's anybody that needs home field advantage in the playoffs, it is the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, they benefit the most, I think, from it. San Francisco's also really good at home. I mean, look, everybody benefits from home.
But I also saw San Francisco go into Philadelphia 2 weeks ago and just beat the doors off the Eagles.
You don't have nearly the same questions or concerns about that team than you would Dallas.
No.
This would be a really impressive victory for them to go on the road.
Yes,
Swag, you just laid out the weather. I mean, what was it? You said 15-mile-an-hour winds up to, it's going to rain.
10 to 15 miles an hour, 90% chance of rain during the day.
Temperature?
Mid-40s. So it's not going to be freezing, but...
No, but what's a city that in January has similar weather to that? Philly, San Francisco.
San Francisco, it can rain a ton. It's usually not that cold, but you can get wind and rain in San Francisco, and that field is a quagmire when it does.
Exactly, because it's real grass. And we've noted their numbers on real grass versus their home turf. They're just half the team that they are.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this one. This one is this is Niner Philly level for me. I'd have to look at the slate, but I think this is a standalone game on television for me.
Well, you get a triple header on Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
So there's much fewer games on Sunday.
Your other 1 o'clock games on Sunday in the same slot, Niners and Cardinals, Commanders and Rams. So you got 3 games. That's all you got.
The iPad will have the red zone. It'll be on the side. I'll check in once in a while, but I'm paying attention to this
The
one.
tough part for me with the red zone, and maybe it's just because the way I'm streaming and watching, is that sometimes the red zone on the iPad is ahead of the TV, and so I look down and I see the play before the game that I'm watching solo.
I have the reverse. My
have the other way?
live feed of just the game. I had this Baltimore-Seattle, and it was like 5 minutes had gone by, and they're like, let's go to Baltimore. I'm like, I already know what happens here.
Yeah, I think it's because there's only 3 games going on at the same time, so they're going to show a lot more of it. And I'm like, I just saw that. No, there's going to be a sack. Way to ruin it, Scott Hansen.
We don't have to say, but there might be a Sprague and line pick in this game. Coming up at 8:30.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Matt Stahl covers Alabama for AL.com. We're doing a sneak peek at some playoff games since we won't be here for the week of. Let's get his thoughts. Roll Tide, Michigan, big matchup Talk about it next. Daily Ticker, but first, Swag with a sports update.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by 808 Hawaiian Restaurant. Enjoy some Kahlua Pig Terry Chicken, even an island cocktail of Burnside, Woodstock, or order online at ate-oh-ate.com. First on the Fan, a total debacle for the Chargers in Las Vegas without Justin Herbert. The Bolts committed 5 turnovers, allowed the Raiders to score a franchise record 63 points, including a pair of defensive touchdowns, 63-21 the final. And the noise just keeps getting louder over Brandon Staley's future as head coach in L.A. Blazers were listed as betting favorites for the first time all season. DeAndre Ayton, Malcolm Brogdon back in the lineup, a banged-up Jazz squad. And it did not work out. Portland trailed by 33 midway through the third quarter. They lose 122-114. They'll try again Saturday night hosting the Mavericks. Oregon and Oregon State officially announced their agreement to play one another on the football field over the next 2 seasons. The Ducks visit Corvallis September 14th in 2024. Beavers go to Autzen Stadium September 20th of 2025. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on every game at Spirit Mountain Casino with a sportsbook powered by BetMGM. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Every day, get the NFL headlines delivered straight to you. Follow the Best Football Show with Brian Baldinger on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
During the Jeep Wrap-Up the Year sales event, well-qualified current FCA lessees get a low-mileage lease on the 2024 Jeep Wrangler Willys 4xE for $359 a month for 36 months with $3,979 due at signing. Tax, title, license extra. No security deposit required. Call 1-888-925-JEEP for details. Requires dealer contribution and lease through Stellantis Financial. Current vehicle must be registered at least 30 days prior to lease. Extra charge for miles over 30,000. Includes 7,500 EV cap cost reduction. Not all customers will qualify. Residency restrictions apply. Take retail delivery by 1-2. Jeep is a registered trademark.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
On 1080 The Fan. In this wide world of sports, some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
This is the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague visit the insiders that are covering the stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, Daily Ticker time. You're on a football Friday. We talked about Washington and Texas yesterday. Let's go to the other semifinal game in the Rose Bowl. Michigan, Alabama.
You are looking live.
Yeah, I think we should be able to revive him and have him call every Rose Bowl. Not Brett Musburger, but
If we can bring
Jackson.
Tupac back, why can't Keith Jackson be revitalized to just do that?
Yeah, AI generated Keith
the
Jackson.
Rose Bowl, yeah.
I'd be all for it. Joining us now is Matt Stahl at MattStahl97 on Twitter. Go give him a follow. He covers Alabama for AL.com. Matt, good morning to you, man. What was the reaction in Tuscaloosa when they're announcing the playoff teams and Alabama finds out they get in over an undefeated Florida State? Was it surprise, shock, expected? How did everybody react down there?
It seems like the Alabama fans expected it. They were obviously very happy about the situation. I was surprised. I was, sitting on my couch watching that eternally long selection show, and I was shocked by it. That's just not how the committee has operated in the past, I don't think.
Were you surprised by the way the SEC title game went? Because I was admittedly, to tell me Bama shows up and plays a tough game doesn't shock me, because I had just seen a week prior they should have lost to Auburn. It's a 4th and basically 31 they complete for a touchdown. I didn't think they'd beat Georgia. Were you surprised by how they played against the Bulldogs?
I was a little surprised, more because of how good I know Georgia is, less. The Iron Bowl was at Auburn this year. You got to throw that game in the trash, regardless of result. How good Auburn is has never made an impact on how that game finishes when it's in Auburn. So that one I was kind of looking as a toss. But just the way Nick Saban coached that game. He comes out afterwards and he's like, "Yeah, we went one defensive drive and I just totally threw out the game plan and we just went back to the base defense and beat them that way." I was surprised a little bit. I'm not surprised they came out and played it close, but that Georgia team was sort of a death machine here for 2 years, so it did surprise me just a little bit.
Yeah, I hadn't lost since 2 years ago in the SEC title game. Oops, sorry, I did not mean to press that. That was an accident. That's a drop on our page, and I accidentally pressed that button.
I told you gotta stop leaning on those.
You got to take that ability away from me. That was perfectly timed. So, Matt, I'm curious, Matt, because I argued earlier in the year they lose to Texas, and you're looking at Alabama, and they just don't look like the same Alabama. And I complained every week that somebody else didn't beat them because they're like a zombie. You needed to beat them twice to get them out of the playoff, and they kept surviving and surviving. They'd find a way to win, What do you make of this team's chances to go win a national championship? Because we've seen Alabama teams go into the playoff where they've been dominant seemingly all year. That hasn't really been the case with this team, but Milrose seems to be confident. Their defense is playing better. I'm just curious what you make of this team, the way that they're playing now that they're heading into the playoff.
Yeah, it's been something else to watch. They've got red hot here. But, like y'all, after that Texas game, I'm like, oh, boy, this feels like a bad Alabama team, which obviously means, 3 losses and you go play in the Orange Bowl or something here. Everything's relative, I think, in Alabama. Then they go the next week. They will go play worse the next week at South Florida. They don't play Milroe. They got, Tyler Buckner and Ty Simpson starting that game. The offense looks abysmal. And then just from there, every week they start getting better and better and better in SEC play. And then, there are games they should have lost that they did. They didn't lose to Auburn. Then they go in and they beat Georgia. I don't know that there's a hotter team right now coming into the playoff. It's versus Michigan. Michigan's a test. It's going to be a different test than Georgia. I don't know that it's going to be a more difficult test than Georgia, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I like their chances. I don't know that I'd pick them outright, but we'll see. That's why they play the game.
Yeah.
To the roof, Daddy! Dirt.
That was you.
No, that wasn't me. Sorry about that. Can I ask you about Jalen Milroe? Because he started a little shaky, and he was not somebody that people in Alabama, I think, wanted to keep being the quarterback. And as the season went on, we saw the growth. What were they able to do with him or change or help him feel more comfortable with at the end of the year where, he's storming a field here, Matt, saying, I should be winning. Give me my Heisman. He thinks he should have been a Heisman guy. What did they change for him offensively for him to look the way he looked at the back end of this season?
Yeah, no, he's been quite the story this year. After that Texas game, I was getting a lot of just, Alabama fans are a vocal bunch. I get a lot of reader emails. And I got a lot after that game. They were like, oh, man, Jalen Milroe should never see the field in Alabama again. We got to get everybody else in there. I had 3 quarterbacks people wanted to see in my inbox. Then you go through that South Florida game. So it's like, man, that Milroe guy, pretty good. Certainly the best of what we got. But, I mean, he's looks better and better. He looks just so much more confident. And I think that's part of it. Alabama has kind of done something like this before the year they won the national championship with Jay Coker, who hilariously is a 2-time national champion, but we need to get into that. But they go to the national championship with Jay Coker and win, but early in the season they pulled him, like they'd started somebody else, and I mean it obviously didn't go well. And then they just were like, all right, we're riding with Jay Coker, he's the guy. And he's sort of done the same thing with Milroe. I think there's a little psychological thing once they get actually named the starter, which is like Jalen Milroe knew if he went out there and threw 2 picks in the next game, like he was not getting pulled. Like there's not a hook coming from him or coming for him. So he could go out there, play a little more just unafraid, and he's not afraid to go make a play. I mean, they've just figured out what works for him too, right? Like it's not a whole lot of like dink and dunk stuff with Jalen Milroe. Like you look at his passing numbers, he complete like a little over 50% of his passes, and 5 of them are going for more than 50 yards or whatever, just because the strongest thing in his arsenal is let the fast guy run fast, let Jalen throw the ball real far, touchdown. It's not a. And then something towards the end of the season, it seemed like there was a stretch there, or maybe I don't know if he was dealing with a little bit of a health issue or whatever, but it seemed like at times he looked hesitant to run, and it just hasn't been the case anymore. Like if he needs to take off, he takes off, and learn to slide a little bit more. I think early in the season that seemed like more of a, you'd like to see him go down just a little bit more than that, but he just overall looks more comfortable, more confident. I think things are fairly simple for him at this point, and they figured out just how to take advantage of him and what he does well.
Great stuff. Matt Stahl at Matt Stahl 97 on Twitter. Go give him a follow. He covers Alabama, AL.com. The playoff is here. Bama is back in it. Death taxes in Alabama having a chance to win a national championship. They're back. Thanks for the preview, Matt. We really appreciate it, man, and enjoy LA if you're going, and hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Will do. Sounds good.
There you go, Matt Stahl. Okay, the one that I played was legitimately an accident.
You shouldn't be hitting these during interviews.
My mouse is too close. It's too close. Second one, YouTubers can back me up on that. My hands were free on the second one. I was leaning back in my chair.
You're really going to throw me under the bus,
I can't mentally press the buttons. This is not a touch screen. I can't do that. That was all you.
Were you nervous just touching that screen right there?
I was a little bit. I touched a blank spot.
Because I didn't know if this was a touch screen.
Let's find out if it is.
No,
it is not a touch screen.
It is not a touch screen.
Well, Alabama's splitting the D, and look at this. Look at that.
Can I say,
back in the playoff?
He seemed actually pretty level-headed as a beat writer, not like, oh, roll tide, we're this, we're that. I do find it funny, just take the Auburn game that they should have. Throw that in the trash. Tell that to Florida State.
So you do with rivalry games, man.
Throw
them out the window.
Yeah, but Florida State didn't beat Florida by enough on the road without their quarterback. Oh.
Throw them out the window. The records don't matter when these two rivals meet.
What about the South Florida game? Do I throw that in the trash? Or
South Florida and Alabama, long-term rivalry. Yeah. Long-term rivalry.
Yeah. Louisville, Florida State. Yeah, throw that in. Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't count.
We ought to keep that. They didn't beat Louisville by enough.
That's true. Yeah, hold on to that one. The other ones you throw out.
Alabama would have got in if the roles were reversed, by the way, even with their quarterback being out.
For sure they would have. Let's talk about, we have a lot of conversations about the bad and the ugly in college football and what is to come. Let's mention the good, because there's some of it that we saw this week, and I want to get to that next on the Fam.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
Do you expect to be the coach here tomorrow?
I don't know that.
Do you think you should be?
Yes.
Why?
I know that what I've done here for 3 years, and I know what I put into this, and, I know that we're capable of going.
For about the fourth week in a row, beat writers asking Brandon Staley if he should be the coach here as the Chargers lose to the Raiders 63-21 last night. It was a bigger gap than that final score would indicate.
Yes, it was.
I don't know if he's going to get fired today. I feel like that would have been done, but he seems not for long for that job.
I mean, the Chargers are incompetent, so I would imagine he's going to finish out the season, and I hope they lose every game by 40-plus points.
Who's stinking it up? Brandon Staley and the Chargers. Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Make plumbing and electrical services delightful. Get your time back with the pros tackle, whatever projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com.
Of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
On 1080 The Fan.
Well, shout out to Matt for surviving through drops in that interview. Sometimes it happens. We got fat fingers. You never know what's going to take place. There's no...
There's no we in the word you.
I love of all the ones that I could have accidentally pressed. That was the one that I accidentally pressed.
Well, because he was talking about Milroe making plays, and then you hit the Swag. I don't even know if you were here. You missed.
No,
this.
he was gone. Swag was taking a leak or getting a coffee or something.
He's literally explaining Milroe making a play, and Dirt accidentally hits the split the knee. Ooh.
No, I was talking to Joey.
He kept going though. Credit to me, like he didn't stop.
Awesome.
He did not stop. He didn't bat an eye. He didn't.
Perfect.
He didn't ask what the hell's wrong with you guys. What drugs are you on in Portland, Oregon today? He didn't ask any of that.
You know, you held it together pretty well too. You got through your question, and then you just leaned back and went, "What did I just do? Why did I do that for?"
All right. Well, I think the listeners enjoyed that one.
I'm sorry. I thought Matt was good.
He was good. He was good. Really good.
I was kind of aiming for more of a roll tide.
He wanted a deeper Southern accent and somebody saying,
Paul
"We're going to
Feinbaum
take."
was not available.
I wanted Paul Feinbaum.
Paul.
I wanted real Paul Feinbaum. You know, enough of this masquerade. It's roll tide every year.
So you're damn right. They made the playoff. It's Alabama football.
I looked up cameos recently, and there is a Roll Tide fan who was seen in a video with Drewski. You know Drewski?
Yeah, he's the guy in like the Sprite commercials.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
He's very popular. He's got a bunch of content he does. He went to the Bama-Georgia game, and he masqueraded as a Bama fan. And he had like a dip in. He's like, "We're Roll Tide! Roll Tide, baby!" And he's with a guy that I guess Roll Tide Willie is his name. He's on Cameo for like $50. And he's just like some backwoods Bama fan.
Just yells
he's
Roll Tide
kind of
at you.
cross-eyed. He looks like the kid from Dennis the Menace. And he's just like, "Oh, we're going to Roll Tide." Like one guy, there's an example of Cameo they give. Yeah, they say, "Hey, this is what you get with this person on Cameo." And one guy's recording him on his front porch. And he goes, "Willie, this guy says Norway's the best country. There ain't no best country. America, best country. Roll Tide."
I think that should be the gift we get for Ken Barkley if we win that bet. Instead of sending him
Buy him a cameo.
buy him the
Roll Tide
cameo
Willie.
of Roll Tide Willie.
Roll
Send it to
Tide
Ken.
Willie.
Hey, Ken, you listen here now.
I'm telling you, go look up. I almost want to pull the audio at the break.
Roll
If you
Tide
look
Willie.
up this video, he's just like, "We don't give a piss about no Georgia Bulldog. He Roll Tide today."
The little macho man Randy Savage with a Southern accent. I'm in on it.
It is kind of, yeah, but you see him and you're like, "Oh, Willie's a nice guy probably." And, you know,
He's making some money on the side with
he's
his
doing what he
Southern
can
accent.
for his life. Yeah.
I don't know who Florida hurt and what they did to piss people off, but has anybody seen Florida's 2024 schedule? Have you seen their schedule?
Is in the Gators?
Florida Gators.
Swag, this is easily, far and away, the worst schedule in all of
the
college
SEC
football.
threw it to him.
Explain. So the SEC released their schedule Wednesday. They did like a 2-hour reveal on ESPN. They were releasing games on like Good Morning America. Like, oh God, they play Miami in non-conference to open the season. I think they get them at home. That's not a game that's every year. So they get Miami at home. They get Texas A&M early on in the year. They have to go to Tennessee. After a bye week at the end of October, their final 5 games of the regular season, home against Georgia, well, not home, but they play in Jacksonville, Georgia, in a neutral site.
World's largest cocktail
That's
party.
a loss.
On the road at Texas.
That's a loss.
LSU at home. Ole Miss at home. At Florida State. If the college football playoff was 12 teams this year, there is a legitimate argument that all 5 of those teams would have been in the college football playoff. Ole Miss, you're splitting hairs. LSU, you're splitting hairs, but they're in the conversation to be in it. They would have potentially had to have played 5 straight playoff teams. I don't know how you survive this. Good luck, Florida.
Well, next year, unfortunately, is the pivotal year, I think, for Billy Napier.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Here's my only question, real quick. So that schedule, I mean, good luck navigating it. Nick Saban has never had to navigate a schedule like that. If Billy Napier's going to get fired like by week 6, I've always wondered, what is the point of bringing the coach back if your ultimate position is you better win a lot or you're fired?
Yeah.
Then just fire him. I mean, maybe there's obviously some buyout money difference between now and a few weeks in, but I don't get the point of it. I never have, and I never will. They do this in hockey. They'll fire a coach 9 games in, and I'll go, they're 2-7. Like, okay, what was the point of bringing them in?
Training camp and all that stuff. What are we doing here?
You see it once in a blue moon in the NBA. I just don't get I don't get the sports logic of this coach is on a hot seat, And if he is this and that by X and Y date, he's fired, then what's the point? You're just wasting a year then.
Especially with that tough of a schedule. It's like you're not, I shouldn't say nobody. Not many programs in the country could go 8-4 against that schedule. That's a gauntlet.
Name the teams that can do it. I'll start. Georgia, Bama, and I'm done.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them out there. I do want to get to this, though. So it's interesting that this all came out on Wednesday, and I didn't get to it there. I just wanted to highlight how bad Florida's schedule was, and we went a little long talking Roll Damn Tide. I do want to get to some other scheduling notes in college football, a couple of portal updates that's going on. We have not talked about the indefinite suspension yet. We need to send some T's and P's to Draymond Green. Okay, he needs to get the help that he deserves because this is not his fault, so we'll talk about that in the final hour. Is there a savior coming? I'll talk about that as well, and we'll Sprague the line at 8:30, so get your fake sponsors into the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326 or send them in on the YouTube chat. We'll do some gambling coming up at 8:30. Loaded final hour. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
KWJJ HD2 Portland, an Odyssey station. Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan. It was an unmitigated disaster for the Chargers in Las Vegas Thursday. They didn't have Justin Herbert. They didn't have any offense. They committed 5 turnovers. The Raiders were up 42-0 at halftime. They would go on to a franchise record 63 points in a 63-21 rout that has everybody wondering just when the Spanos family will turf Brandon Staley. Blazers glad to get DeAndre Ayton, Malcolm Brogdon back in the lineup, but they didn't show it with their play. Favored by Vegas for the first time all season. They laid an egg, down 33 in the second half. They lose to an undermanned Jazz squad, 122-114. They'll try again Saturday night hosting the Dallas Mavericks. Ducks and Beavers officially announced their agreement to play each other on the football field for the next 2 seasons. Oregon goes to Corvallis September 14th in 2024. And Oregon State will go to Autzen Stadium on September 20th of 2025. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on every game at Spirit Mountain Casino with a sportsbook powered by BetMGM. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
If you can't find the humor in today's NBA, you're doing it wrong. Heat Check with Trista Crick on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
There's glory in the legends of this hard muscle life, and there's poetry in each season made of sweat and strife.
Dirt and Sprague on Football Friday.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app, follow 1080 The Fan, and enable push notifications to get the latest on the Ducks, Beavers, Blazers, and more.
All I know is, you mess with me, you got problems.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, and live on YouTube every morning. You can go watch the show there. It's always up on YouTube, too, the entire show. You got a nanny cam on us during commercials. You can see what we're doing. And make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We love you all. Thanks for listening. Lots to get to here in the final hour. We're going to Sprague the line coming up at 8:30, so get your fake sponsors in at 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line, or send them to the YouTube chat. I want to talk a little bit about Draymond Green because this narrative is really starting to bother me. We didn't talk about that at all yesterday.
Yeah, what was there to talk about? He got hit with an indefinite suspension. Of course, the league has no backbone or spine.
No, they can't just
so
come
go
out
do your
suspended.
counseling, Draymond. And then we'll welcome you back with open arms.
I love how he is now getting painted as the victim here.
Oh, it's amazing.
What world am I living in? The guy that keeps punching people and choking people. He's the one we have to be careful. We could think about Draymond right now.
Look,
he's going through a tough time.
We're a quote unquote team at this radio station.
Yes, we are.
I personally found it rather disgusting, the opening segment of the show after us yesterday. It was basically an infomercial of why you should just give Colin Cowherd all your clicks and your attention, because I have Draymond. And much like Enron before the fall, Draymond Green's a great teammate to me.
Yes, he is.
He's a good person.
He's never punched me in the face.
Yeah, he never kicked me in the balls.
But he's punched Jordan Poole.
Unbelievable.
So that's been going on, and there's something happening this weekend that I would like to talk about. There's a lot of ugliness and bad things going on in college football. Like, it feels broken to a certain extent. Like, this stretch, it's hilarious to me how we have not been able to come together. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. But to have your free agency and your draft, essentially, and recruiting in the transfer portal take place while the season is still going on, it's just mind-numbingly dumb. Like, coaches are getting ready for games. Bowl games start tomorrow. There's also a national signing day, and the transfer portal window is open. Like, make it make sense. It doesn't. It's chaotic and stupid, and there's idiots that are running the ship. There is, though, a good that is coming out of all of this, and that is, if there's one thing that I begrudge most about this sport, is that I love it. The passion's great and all that. But there's a lot of weeks where you look at games and you're like, dude, there's nothing. Georgia's playing Furman. Alabama's playing Middle Tennessee
There's
State.
getaway weekends for
there's
sure.
Weekends
yeah.
you just look at it and it's like, dude, there's no exciting games. We had weeks last year early on in the season where there were no top 25 matchups at all. Not that it means a lot early in the season, but none that really grab you. The SEC released their schedule on Wednesday night. We hate the SEC, and I get all the animosity towards them. Dude, this is going to be a product that's going to be really tough to top.
We hate the SEC, though, Dirt, because we wish we were the SEC.
Yeah, there's a jealousy. Like Georgia, for example. Let's just use them. I think Georgia has been, I'm trying to think of the right, propped up isn't the right word. They have benefited from a New England Patriots type situation where the SEC East has been bad. There's been no real contender with them in that division. They get that division, don't have to play a lot of crossover games. You don't play Alabama in the regular season. They've had the benefit there. Georgia's a great program. We get it.
But it's Iowa's division in the Big Ten.
Exactly. Yeah. Divisions are now gone in the SEC. Georgia next year will play Clemson in non-conference in the first week of the season.
Where's that at?
In Atlanta. So it's another neutral site, but Clemson will travel well for that one. It's not far for them. They go to Alabama in September, They go to Texas in October. Ooh. They go to Ole Miss in November, and that's not counting home games against Tennessee and, who knows what Auburn will be next year. But it's just one of those things that you circle. Like, there's a lot of negative things that are happening in the sport, and there's a lot of the direction that I don't like. And then I see these schedule releases, and it's like big brands playing big brands. You go up and down the SEC. Go look at LSU's schedule. They play Oklahoma in the last week of the season with A&M, with Alabama. They also play USC in non-conference, and it's like, I hate what's happening, but I love what's happening at the same time, and it's really hard to mix those emotions in me internally.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I think the tough thing, and I've said this about the 12-team playoff, is you are a diehard college football fan. You love West Coast football. You've been a Ducks fan for a long time. Even you play into this a little bit. And what I mean by it is, like you mentioned, they play Tennessee. Okay, like Tennessee did not have nearly the season people thought they would this year after such a strong start for Josh Heupel over there. I mean, I don't feel like we do this with a lot of other conferences. We talk about Tennessee. I mean, they're run-of-the-mill top 25-ish level team. I'm not going to sit here and just conclude they're always going to be top 15 to 20 with Heupel. Let's wait and see on that. But because Georgia plays them, it's like, well, they got to play Tennessee. Yeah, and Pac-12 had their schedule this year, and the Big 12 wasn't the greatest conference, but man, they kind of all play each other too. This is how they're going to get the 12 playoff spots. This is how they're going to fill most of that up. Is because the narrative already exists today. They haven't even played the season, and we're already looking at the schedule going, oh, they got to play that team and that team and that team. And all of these teams are living off more of a reputation of the conference, I think, than they are the validity of level of play that they have. What was Ole Miss's non-conference? What was Missouri's non-conference? None of us can say it top of our head out loud.
Missouri beat Kansas State. I know that. I don't know who Ole Miss played.
Kansas State, not in the Big 12 title game this year. A little bit of a less than team than what they were a year prior. So that's their big non-conference deal. What was their SEC schedule? I don't know off the top of my head. I know they had a couple big games, and those couple big games they didn't win. So seemingly they're the Penn State of the SEC every year with Lane Kiffin.
Lost to Georgia and Bama, beat everybody else.
But those teams get more the benefit than the other versions in other conferences of those teams. The ACC version of Ole Miss, the Big Ten version of Ole Miss, the Pac-12 version of Ole Miss, whoever you want to fill those blanks in, the SEC gets more of the benefit than the other versions of those teams in other conferences.
Yeah, you're not wrong with that. Tennessee's probably a bad example to use because they are a one-off team from a year ago. And we'll see what Heupel can do, right? Maybe the young quarterback, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the Nico kid who they paid $8 million for reportedly. Maybe he takes them back to that point. Tennessee's a good program, not an elite program. They're good. They had a year where everything came together for them, and then the last year they came back down to earth a little bit. Yeah. I think just the larger point that I'm trying to make is this is the argument for the good of conference realignment is having more interesting matchups week in and week out in the sport. And by adding Texas and Oklahoma, you just look like Texas playing Georgia in Austin in October is an awesome game for college football. I don't know if Texas is going to be the same next year. I don't know how many other guys are going to be back. I imagine Quinn Ewers will be. Arch Manning eventually will be their starter. Like, that's an exciting game that I circle on the calendar that I say I want to watch that. Whereas Georgia has not had a lot of those games over the last handful of years, and they've been the best team in college football. But this past season, they didn't play a ranked matchup, I want to say, until they got like Ole Miss or Missouri late in the season, and those were their two quality wins on the year. They didn't play LSU. They didn't play Alabama in non-conference, in a out-of-divisional game. Their non-conference schedule wasn't great, and so you just didn't really have anything to go off of. Texas next year in the second week of the season also plays at Michigan in non-conference. Like, that's an awesome game.
That's a good game.
This is one of the things that I despise about the sport, and I'm not meaning to do this just to prop up Tennessee. Tennessee's whatever. Tennessee's Utah to me. Utah's probably better than them, but you get the point I'm trying to make. They're good, not elite, not a national title contender. I'm happy that we're at least going to get more good games week in and week out, because as a viewer of the sport, that's what I want.
I'm with you 100%, and I didn't want to latch on to just Tennessee in your example. I knew what you were doing. I'm more so just saying, like, I'm just tired of not being able to play in that sport by the same rules as everybody else. Like we had Matt Stahl on. Well, just throw that Auburn game that they should have lost. Throw that in the trash. Doesn't count. What about South Florida? If Florida State's not beating Louisville by enough with a backup quarterback in the ACC championship game, a top 15 Louisville team that was 10-2, We're supposed to throw the close games that Bama probably should have been losing in the trash just because it was close and they're Bama. We're never playing by the same rules, and I know it's been this way in that sport for a very long time. How many commissioners were on the final game day of the regular season basically daring the committee to leave their conference out because he knows they won't?
Exactly.
Nobody else. It was Greg Sankey. They run the sport. They just do. And I know Bama and Georgia, they win the title in the year they shouldn't make it. Like, that happens. And everybody goes, see, look, this is why they should make it. Well, they out-recruit everybody, so I'm glad they're living up to the hype in those moments. But they just don't play by the same rules. They play less conference games. For the most part, they don't even leave their home state for these non-conference tilts. Good job playing Clemson in Atlanta. I can't wait for 28% to be Clemson, and the rest of the percentage is just Georgia Bulldog fan. That's what they do. And then they narrowly win, or they lose, and it's either, man, what a win, SEC, or they lose, and it's September. Yeah. Let's see what they do. No other programs, no other conferences get away with the crap that the SEC does.
Yeah, I will say this. Prepare yourself early on for, in a 12-team playoff field, like you and I have argued this for a long time now about, will the SEC and Big Ten eventually break away? And what do they want the future of the sport to look like? I do think there's a valid argument that will be made, that a lot of fans have made, about the controversy of the back end of a 12-team playoff. It is going to be filled with Big Ten and SEC schools.
That's my point.
Brace yourself for that now. It's going to happen. They're going to argue. And I don't even know, like, look, I see the whole point about the SEC. I have a hard time looking at some of these schedules, though, and saying, like, having to go through the ACC gauntlet's going to be harder than having to play Texas and LSU and Alabama and Georgia, right? Like, I just have a hard time looking and saying playing Duke and NC State and Clemson, who still is not taking transfers, by the way. That's a whole other thing. Dabo hasn't changed that yet. That's going to be a harder gauntlet. So it's going to be really hard to judge some of these teams based on their final win-loss record. What at least ultimately will happen, though, in a 12-team playoff, at least for now, we'll see how the future looks, is that this won't be a debate if you win your conference. If you win your conference, you're in. There's no like, hey, we're leaving out an undefeated Florida State team. You're in the playoff, and you're going to get a chance to go prove it, which Florida State deserved this year. I at least like that there's the automatic qualifier aspect of it, but where this will become an issue, and people will, I mean, we're going to scream and yell about it. Just brace yourself now. There's going to be a 9-3 SEC team that gets in over a 11-1 non-conference champion like North Carolina State, or Duke has a random year, or the Big 12 is going to go through this as well, because there's just not household brands, there's not national title contenders in most people's eyes, and they're going to get dragged down because of that.
But I think I said this around week 8, week 9. Like, we're going to find a way. People think, oh, we get 12, we don't have to worry about this conversation anymore. The hell we will. The hell we will. Until your team is on the bubble of the 12, and then somebody else with a worse record or a slightly weaker resume, but they get SEC behind them, then they get propped up and you get left out in the cold. Everybody thinks this conversation's going to die. It's not, man. It really, there'd be one this year. For the 12 teams, there'd absolutely be one this year.
For sure.
And even for the teams that win their conferences, to your point, that get rewarded, no more leaving them out in the cold. Oh, yeah, they will. They absolutely will. They'll get to host the playoff game, but they'll get railroaded in the worst matchup, and they'll get a team that probably can beat them, and then we'll go, well, look at that conference. The whole conference sucks. And it's like, yeah, that team didn't make the conference. That team didn't make these other programs not recruited at an elite level. The SEC's been paying off people for 35 years. They got a bit of a head start on every other conference in the way they did business, and they've propped themselves up properly and rightly so in college football. But we're going to have arguments about the 12, and I'm telling you, Oregon State might go 11-1 with that record or with that conference and that non-conference schedule, whatever they're calling that stuff. If you don't think Oregon State's going to be on the bubble against a 3 or 2-loss SEC team, and
they're not getting it. They're not getting
it. You're not paying attention.
You have to be in a conference. You have to have an automatic qualifier at this point. That's the tough one to thread for
And I
Oregon
believe
State.
We've already heard through a report that they're not going to allow a 2-team conference to count as the automatic qualifying conference, correct?
No, they are changing the model to 5 automatic qualifiers, so it'll be the 4 power conferences, Big 12, ACC, Big 10, SEC, whatever, and then the highest ranked conference champion from not one of those.
Because the Pac-2 only has 2 conference teams. They're not going to allow that. Yeah.
No. So if they were in the Mountain West next year and they were 11-1 and they won the Mountain West, they would have an automatic qualifier spot. If the 12-team playoff existed this year, Liberty would have been in the 12-team college football playoff. Ugh. So that spot will still exist again in the short term. Who knows how it changes in years to come? But that will be a thing. There's a lot of bad things happening in the sport. I'm obviously not going through it from a fandom angle like some others in the Northwest are, and I sympathize with all of you. It's horrible, and I wish that there was a way we could turn back the clock. The only part of this that I am excited for is we're going to get better matchups week in and week out. In the Big Ten and in the SEC, there's just going to be more compelling games, more interesting matchups, and I'm all for that because college football, I think, desperately needs it. Let's get to feeling sorry for somebody. We need to think about him. That's next on The Fan.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
On 1080 The Fan.
Just want to pass on a PSA for everybody this weekend. Tiger Woods is playing golf. The big cat's back, playing with Charlie. Very excited. 2-day event, PNC Championship.
There you go.
Yeah,
Watch it.
I don't know, man. It feels weird, to be honest with you. Your sport's dead, and we got to clap because he's playing with the sun.
He's the savior, man. He's coming. The Jesus is risen.
50-year-old Tiger waiting for old Chuck Woods to be 24 years old.
That's right.
Is that what we're doing?
Golf Jesus is here, man. He's going to play an event every month. Players Championship, Masters, Majors. Let's go, baby. He's back. I'm going to watch. Every time Tiger plays golf, I'm going to watch. So I'm excited for that this weekend. Draymond Green, I think we should feel sorry for him. He's clearly going through a lot right now.
He lost his father.
Oh, did he? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, Bob Myers left the Warriors.
Oh,
it's
that's
a
right, his
father
daddy.
figure for him. And so a mid 30-year-old man with wife and kids, he's going to act out emotionally sometimes. That's not the Draymond that I know. The Draymond that I know.
No, he's a good guy, man.
When I pay him over $1 million to do a podcast on my personal network, by the way, you can find that network at www.thepodcastnetwork, loudvolume.com. When you find the loudvolume.com podcast at www.loudvolumepodcast.com, that Draymond that I know, when I give him $2.5 million to do a podcast on my Volume Loud Podcast Network at www.loudvolumepodcastnetwork.com. He's always so great.
Never punches me in the face. The way that this has been spun since the indefinite suspension came down is hilarious to me. Like, even starting in the Woj tweet with the indefinite suspension, which, by the way, way to take a stand, NBA. I like that. What parameters does he need to meet to get back to action?
He needs counseling, Dirt. He needs real counseling.
Somebody had a great tweet the other day. They said, this dude got suspended in an NBA Finals. He cost a 73-win team, you could argue, a chance at winning a championship because maybe they win if he doesn't get suspended. And that wasn't enough to teach him a lesson. Losing his team an NBA championship was not enough to get through to this guy of maybe I shouldn't kick people in the nuts and maybe I shouldn't be a dirty player and punch and choke people. That wasn't enough to do it. But you think an indefinite suspension in a sit-down meeting with Adam Silver in a leather chair is going to do it? Get out of here. But even in the Woj announcement, it was basically he needs to take some time away from basketball to do what's right for him. He needs to take care of what he needs. He's clearly going through some stuff right now.
Obviously.
And, I don't know if I've ever seen a narrative try to be spun that this is he's the victim in some way, shape, or like he's clearly going through something, so we need to be delicate here. Let's take a moment to think about Draymond Green and what's happening in his life.
Yeah, I also found a lot of you had former player podcasts, you had radio stations all over America, national, local, like everybody just making excuses. And I'm like, it's good to know all the people who do not watch Draymond Green on a regular basis, and their only introduction into Draymond is, hey, Draymond did something today.
Gilbert Arenas had probably the best take of all. He's on a take streak this week. It should have been a Quake take, basically saying he's just taking out European players.
Yeah, Tom Haberstroh wrote about this. He punched Jordan Poole last year in the face.
His own teammate. In the face.
Jordan Poole from Europe?
In the face.
I missed the memo. Is he?
I don't know.
He French?
He could be. Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole.
I don't know where he's from.
I'm Jordan Poole. Look, does he go after European players? I mean, certainly. I'm still disappointed that Nurkic, this is what hurts the most. Like, sometimes bullies need to be hit back. And Yusuf Nurkic is all of 7 feet, 250 pounds of human being.
Large man.
I know Yusuf is used to just falling to the ground to flop and flail and sell calls. Legitimately don't know how you get hit like that, and your instincts aren't to just say, oh, no, you don't.
Who do you think you
clock
are?
that dude?
Yeah.
Because I'm asking you, what do you think happens if he responds that way?
That's a great question.
If he hits Draymond clean, Yusuf Nurkic is big enough to drop Draymond Green to the floor.
Yeah, and he would be.
And then what's our conversation at that point?
Right.
So, like,
somebody finally gave him a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah, this is, it's been a bit of a spineless league, and it's been a spineless commissioner on this. Like, suspended indefinitely. Cool story, bro. Go make him get counseling. I'm sure that's going to teach him.
How many do we think it ends up being? North of 20, sub 20, 15? What do we think?
I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it. I think it's annoying. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's a good thing to have in the game. And you know what? They're going to baby him. He's going to be allowed back. He's got 3 more years at $27 million. He's going nowhere.
No, he's not walking away from that contract. That's a guaranteed deal.
So unless there's some agreed upon buyout where he just goes to a new place, I don't know, man. I'm just exhausted by the topic, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know it. We didn't talk about it yesterday. I didn't want
to. What's there to talk about? He's going to get counseling, guys. Is that going to help? Yeah, Text in now.
I think it's important to push back on the narratives that are getting thrown out there. Like assaulting people is not okay. I don't care what your job is. Like, this isn't the NBA anymore. You can't just punch people in the face. Like, that's not all right. And he clearly has had a history of doing this. And the fact that immediately as the suspension was handed down, this was spun as some sort of sympathy of we need to get him the help he needs. Like, I mean, Draymond Green clearly has an issue. He's not punching people in his private life. He's not physically assaulting people. He has a problem on the basketball court controlling his emotions. We don't need to feel any sympathy for him. Nobody else has this problem.
Help. That's not incorrect, but
you're forcing him into it.
If you want to be able to continue your basketball career, you have to go do this before. And yeah,
I got enough family experience to confidently say that when you force people into getting the help, that actually drives them further away from the help.
Yep.
Again, I don't. Maybe he'll stop.
You're not
kicking nuts for a year.
His quote after the game was, when I mean to do it, I don't apologize. And when I don't mean to do it, I apologize. So I apologize. It's like, what are you talking about? So when you mean to punch somebody in the face or kick somebody in the nuts or choke somebody, you don't apologize?
The problem is he realized in the moment, not the moment, but he realized in the postgame what was about to transpire and what's looming.
Yeah.
And so he really tried to sell us on he didn't mean to do that.
I don't.
You could reenact that moment. There's no way you did that without trying to do that.
No, and I wish that Nurk would. Nurk is just too soft.
Touch him, and he's flopping and flailing like he's getting pushed.
I just wish that I wish he would have hit somebody that had the balls to fight back against him, because he's just one of those bullies. That he's not the biggest guy in the league. He's not the toughest guy in the league. He's just the loudest guy in the league, and he's willing. The NBA allows
do it against
him.
Giannis.
Exactly.
Do it against Giannis, and you saw Giannis over a basketball.
Right.
Do it against Giannis.
That guy with that reach. Like, good luck with that. I wish somebody would stand up to him in the NBA, and his team won't do it. His league won't do it. His leaders in the locker room won't do it. Steve Kerr won't do it. Like, everybody's allowed him to get away with this forever, and then we're mad that it continues to happen, acting as if something's going to change internally when we've never punished him hardly at all for any of these transgressions.
Well, did you see his apology this morning?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, you can catch it at www.loudpodcastvolume.com. That's our podcast network. He's been a great guy to me, but let's go take a listen to the latest podcast on loudpodcastvolume.com. Again, that's loudpodcastvolume.com.
I always enjoy when my teammates punch me in the face. Makes them a good teammate. Let's get to Sprague in the line. Your fake sponsors, welcome. 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. You can also send them in on the YouTube live chat. We'll do some gambling. We'll do it next for Sure Swag with SportsCenter.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, just a total debacle for the Chargers in Las Vegas Thursday. No Justin Herbert, no offense. They committed 5 turnovers. They allowed the Raiders defense to score 2 touchdowns in a franchise record 63-21 win. And the noise continues to get louder over Brandon Staley's future as the head coach in L.A. Blazers did a face plant as well at Moda Center as they were favored in Vegas for the first time this season. They were down 33 late in the third quarter. They lose 122-114 to an undermanned Jazz squad. They'll try again Saturday night hosting the Mavericks. It appears the trade between the Dodgers and Rays is just about done. Multiple reports indicate L.A. and Tyler Glasnow have agreed on a 5-year, $135 million contract extension. Once that's signed, he will come from Tampa to L.A. along with outfielder Manuel Margot in exchange for outfielder Johnny DeLuca and starting pitcher Ryan Pepio. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Watch and wager on every game at Spirit Mountain Casino with a sportsbook powered by BetMGM. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Your home for bowl games and the college.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
On 1080 The Fan.
Sprague the line.
Sprague the line.
Sprague the line.
Sprague the line.
See what we got here today, boys. Sprague and Live brought to you by Brandon's Goff for MVP pick. It is almost as bad as the Lions and Chargers offense combined.
Oh my! Hey, that was just in the moment. You know, you had to be there.
It happens, man.
It was an experience.
Shout out to Ken Barkley, who, by the way, told us about a month ago to put some tickets in on Dak Prescott for MVP.
He did,
and that has aged very well. Sprague and Live brought to you by Porn Spam, like Brandon Sprague. I like big bots and I cannot lie. They're all over, man.
Why is that presented by me? Dirk's the one that started that conversation.
You're into porn over there.
Look at this, look at that.
Sprague and Live brought to you by Swag's geography knowledge. The first map he had to study had East Prussia and the Ottoman Empire on it. Big fans of the Ottoman Empire. I'm excited. Has Napoleon come out yet? Is that out in theaters?
I don't know. Yeah.
I got a lot of movies. We're off for a week and a half starting next week. I got a lot of movies. I still haven't seen Oppenheimer.
The Oscar push is on. Oppenheimer's fantastic.
What's the new Scorsese one called again?
Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon.
I haven't seen that. I didn't even see the new Indiana Jones. I'm an Indiana Jones guy. I never saw Indiana Jones. I'm having like a full movie day where I'm watching nothing but movies.
That just got to Disney Plus. Indy did.
Okay.
I think you'll like it better than Crystal Skull. It's a little unbelievable in moments, but whatever.
I mean, it's Indiana Jones, right?
I saw Oppenheimer. You're going to see it and like it. You're going to get a little less experience. The theater does help.
Yeah.
The Barbie movie's good.
And I never saw that.
I haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon yet. I'm going to watch that on my vacation. And I'm mad because I saw the trailer for The Holdovers. Have you seen this? The Paul Giamatti?
Yes.
That came out in October, but they teased it as a Christmas type release, so it's barely in theaters anymore, and I'm upset. I wanted to go to a movie theater and watch that.
Sprague and Live brought to you by the new Bet Welcher Sprague, like a Sprague pick.
Oh, whoa.
There's never an actual payoff.
Whoa, easy.
We're going to do it in the last segment. If you have any last-minute bet payoff ideas, text them in.
Am I getting attacked?
I have them written down. We're going to do this in the final segment. It's a Friday. I have them. YouTube viewers, you can see them. We're going to put them in a hat, and Sprague will pick, and then like Monday or Tuesday, we'll do it. We'll try to do it Monday if we can, pull it off. So, yeah, if you got any ideas, send those in. All right, here we go. Last week, rough week for Sprague and I, 1-2 combined. Swag won the week with a 2-1, hit on the Colts Bengals over a 44.
Oh, piss off.
Ninos covered against the Seahawks 10.5. The Dolphins did not cover against the Titans. That was your loss. Sprague, you hit on the Broncos plus 2.5 against the Chargers. Missed on the Lions and Bears over a 43 and the Eagles plus 3.5 against the Cowboys.
Oh, my.
I hit on only the Cowboys and lost on the Colts against the Bengals and the Lions against the Bears. So my hot streak is cooling off.
Yeah.
Season standings now, I'm at 27-15. Sprague is at 19-22-1.
Yeah, baby.
And Swag is at 18-24. We have a vicious cockfight going on for that last place spot, and I'm still within reaching distance.
I'm still trying to catch you. You're not the only one.
I'm limping to the finish line, man. My heater's done. So that's where we're at standing wise. Swigard, the tee box is yours.
I'll take the first one up. Saturday morning, you get a Saturday triple header. I think it's all on the NFL Network. Bengals hosting the Vikings. The Bengals have adjusted to life without Joe Burrow. The Vikings are playing quarterback roulette. Apparently, Nick Mullen's going to start again. I will take the Bengals at home -3 here. They at least know how to work with Jake Browning now. They've got all their wide receivers back. They figured out how to run the ball a little bit. There's some balance.
Defense is
How about the defense?
And the defense is holding up their end of the bargain. So
takes a team to win. What a funny concept.
They just seem to have a plan where I don't know what the Vikings are doing.
Yes. Nick Mullins is starting. That's what they're doing. Josh Dobbs is now their third stringer, by the way. They bumped him all the way down to third string.
Is it? I never mean to question you guys. I just think it's fair for the second. Right now on Vegas Insider, it says DraftKings is at 3.5. Is the local line at 3?
I'm looking at.
I believe you. I'm trying to verify.
I'm pulling up our DraftKings right now.
Because you had this one last week, and if I get these, it's fair to call it out.
Well,
I'm just
the
curious.
Sports Desk is sponsored by Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook, and I'm looking at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook.
Okay.
At the SpiritMountainCasino.com, and it's -3.
Okay, great. I put it down for you. There you go.
Giving him the hook. All right. Okay. You're okay. All right.
I did that for you with the one game. The one time.
That was a locked-in bet earlier in the week that I texted. It was the Niner game.
That's right.
Niners and Eagles game.
Yeah,
because it was a 2.5 on Tuesday, and I locked in the bet, and then. So
well, how do you feel?
It's okay.
You're part of the segment too.
So we'll give him the 3. That's
you
fine.
don't want to give him the hook, do you?
I don't want to give him the hook.
Okay.
I mean, I want to give him the hook.
Yeah,
he needs the hook here. That's a big difference right there. 3.5 and 3 is a big difference.
If the Bengals are for real, even with Browning, let's cover the number against the Vikings. But the Viking defense has been really good lately.
Yeah, it was the 3-0 against the Raiders last weekend?
Yes.
Flores is a blitzing machine, man.
Yeah,
So we'll
blitz
see
a
what
lot.
happens.
Okay.
Is it me or you?
Go ahead. I think you won the week before.
Okay, I'll take this is pretty simple. I'm just tired of overlooking bad quarterbacks and teams and not picking against them. I'm going to do it. I think this is a good spot, actually. Kansas City just had a national meltdown. Woo! They had to apologize for it. They had to walk it back. Their tight end, not named Travis Kelce, Justin Watson, was like, we're studying more tape this week. They're playing the Patriots, who just won a football game. I'm just going to fade a bad team, and I'm going to pick a good team to respond in a spot. Give me Kansas City minus the 8. Dear God, do not allow the Patriots to score a single point. And Patrick, please just hit Travis Kelce for Taylor Swift's birthday present, and let's cover this number.
There was a legitimate column that came out yesterday having to explain why Travis Kelce was not at Taylor Swift's birthday party this
Well, he
week.
threw her one a couple days prior with his
did.
family and friends.
He did. But she had a big bash, though. And
in
there was
NYC.
There was an article that came out. Well, he's actually practicing with his team, and he takes his career very seriously. So that's why he was not at her birthday celebration. That was a real-life article that came out. My first bet, I'm going to take the team that I'm picking to win the Super Bowl. Ken Barkley said it. Swag capitalized on it last week. I was kicking myself for not locking that one in earlier. I think the 49ers are the best team in the NFL. I think they're blowing everybody out. There might be a slight look-ahead spot here because they get the Ravens next weekend on, the day after Christmas on or maybe Christmas night. I love the 49ers in this spot. I feel like they play well traditionally when they go to Arizona. They're laying less than 2 touchdowns. I don't think the Cardinals are very good. I'm laying the wood with the 49ers minus 12 against Arizona.
All right. Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Weather's supposed to be crappy in Cleveland. Joe Flacco just got paid. Bears and Browns. The total is 38.5. Nah. No.
Yeah.
Pull that drop.
We're not doing anything in this one. I'm taking the under.
38.5, you said?
Yes.
Okay, 38.5. Sprague, pick 2.
I'm gonna play a. Sorry, I was writing that down. I'm gonna play the over. I've not had success on the overs, but I can't quit. I can't quit you. I want points. I'm tired of seeing these unders hit every week, and I'm just gonna keep hoping to God I hit on the week that it does go over. I don't have a lot of confidence in either one of these defenses. I saw one get torched in the rain, a monsoon-like weather against Baltimore. I've seen another defense get housed by Miami. Let's just score points in Commanders-Rams over 50.5, please.
Commanders-Rams. Interesting pick.
I've been eyeing it. I don't think the defenses are very good.
50 or 50.5, would you say there?
It's 50.5 at Vegas Insiders.
All right. Interesting pick. Pick number 2 for me, I'm going with a game we talked about earlier on. I teased it, and I like their chances. They're a better team at home. The other team's not very good on the road. I think this is a desperation spot for the Buffalo Bills. Dallas is coming off the emotional high of beating Philadelphia. Now they got to go on the road and play in the rain against the Bills. I think Josh Allen gets the win. They're laying less than a field goal. I like that at home. I think they win the game by 3. I'm taking the Bills minus 2 at home against Dallas.
Final one for me, Nashville. Sunday morning, the Titans coming off that miracle win in Miami where the Dolphins forgot to play the last 3 minutes of the game. The Texans don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They don't know if Nico Collins is going to be there.
They
don't know if Will Anderson Jr. is going to be available.
Is Schultz
to
back
play.
too? Dalton Schultz?
Don't know if Dalton Schultz is back.
They're also missing a lineman.
They got too many questions. Guys haven't practiced all week. They got to travel. The Titans are just playing free now. They're kind of on the outside of the playoff chase. Will Levis, not pressure here necessarily. I like them at home minus 3.
Okay. That's an interesting pick, man.
The confidence in which you're picking this Titans game it's truly like impressive. I'm not kidding.
I take a wheelbarrow around, man.
Isn't it
So
funny
I'm gonna live life.
like a winning weekend? Isn't it like, because I'm now the opposite. I was feeling great about every pick I was making. I got back-to-back 1 and 2 weeks, and now I'm second-guessing every thought that I have. Why would I gamble on that team? I wanted to gamble the under last night, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to stay away. And then I looked at the score at halftime. It was 42-0.
Man, I'm seeing some games this week that I love, and then I talk myself out of it. Like Falcons are only a 3-point favorite at Carolina. It makes no sense in my brain.
All right, what's your last pick?
The only thing I've been cashing lately are the Denver Broncos props and picks. F it. I'll roll with it.
Really?
Broncos plus 4.5 at Detroit.
Okay.
I just don't know if Detroit should be favored by many teams. Yeah. And Denver's in a playoff race right now. They're a game back of the old Chiefs for the division. So I'm not that confident in Denver, but also the Lions for like over a month have looked a little funky. Denver's defense has rebounded pretty nicely the last month or so. I'm getting 4.5 points. It was either this or the Giants +6 because I like the Giants at the Saints too. I'll take the Broncos. Broncos country. Let's ride again. Broncos +4.5.
I liked that game earlier on the other side, and I said to you, Detroit's better at home, and you said they should have lost the game to the Bears. They lost to the Packers.
They got
at home
housed by the Packers.
Like, you know what, valid points. I'm going to stay away from that one. Last pick for me, I'm going to Monday Night Football right here on 1080 The Fan. I think Philly is desperate. We mentioned earlier, if they went out, they win the NFC East. They understand that. They won a home playoff game, potentially still getting the first-round bye. They're still in the mix for that. I'm taking the Eagles on the road. I think Seattle's limping to the finish line. I think they're done. I don't know who's going to be in a quarterback. Doesn't really matter to me. I think the Eagles have a get-right spot in Seattle. Tough place to play, but I just don't trust the Seahawks right now. I'm taking the Eagles -3 in Seattle. Here we go. Quick picks. I am on the 49ers -12, the Bills -2 against the Cowboys, and the Eagles -3 in Seattle. Sprague on the Chiefs -8 against the Pats, the Commanders and Rams over of 50.5, and then the Broncos +4.5 against the Lions. And Swag is on the Bengals -3 tomorrow morning against the Vikings, Bears, Browns under of 38.5, and then the Titans -3 against the Texans. Sprague in the line brought to you by Counseling. Whether it's punching teammates or following Sprague's gambling advice, Counseling can help. And Sprague and Line brought to you by Preferred Seating. Maybe if Brandon stopped making horrible picks and won a bet occasionally, he could afford more than 400 level seats to watch his beloved Blazers. There you go. Let's do the payoff of the Civil War bet. Not the payoff, but the decision of what it will be. We'll pick that. You can watch it live on YouTube. Close it up next on The Fan.
The Herd.
Everybody's looking forward to the weekend. Friday, getting down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
On 1080 The Fan.
Looking forward to the weekend.
There you go. Fist pumping your way into the weekend every single Friday.
I love that we have to pretend to care about the LA Clippers. It's so funny to me that since they got Kawhi and Paul, it's like, anytime we do the Lakers, let's also throw the Clippers in this now. The city doesn't even care about that team.
No, they don't.
Why are we debating more impressive team, Lakers or Clippers?
Is that a first take thing going on right now?
Been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah, who's
How about
more
the
impressive?
team that hasn't even been to an NBA Finals, getting them out of there?
I thought that last night but seeing the final score of the Charger game, I thought it's a bummer they don't play in a city that actually cares about them, because then fans could legitimately be pissed and go be vocal. But there's no, I would make an argument there's more Charger fans in the state of Oregon than there are in Los Angeles.
I think you'd maybe
There
win
were probably more
argument.
media at Shohei's press conference than the Chargers game.
Yes, there's no doubt about
Well,
that.
somebody said Chargers fans got to be irate. I go, I just think
They don't have fans.
they've been irate since they got ditched. They're in San Diego,
Yes.
of course.
The people in San Diego are not happy. All right, we got to do this quickly. Take your hat off real quick. So unless you want to use my hat.
This is ridiculous.
All right. Shuffle them up. This will be the Civil War bet. We'll try and pay it off on Friday. Or, excuse me, on Monday. Because Swag's last show is Monday.
Not looking.
And then you're going to Hawaii.
Here we go.
He's drawn. There's 4 options in there. Some certainly worse than others.
I don't know what it is. It's right here.
Oh, right here?
Right there. What I get? What's my fate?
All right, here we go.
What's my fate?
See what we got.
Oh, please don't be the soup. Anything but the soup.
You got the Quack Man.
What is-
You have to wear Oregon gear for an entire show and talk nothing but positive things about the Ducks for 3 hours. Can you come up with duck gear for Monday? Do you need me to bring in any Oregon gear?
Are you going to bring the binky? Yeah, I can get duck gear.
Well, that's not the binky. The binky was the smudge. You didn't get the smudge.
Oh, the smudge was
So
a
you don't-
separate.
yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to do it.
The Quack Man, I'm in.
I'll bring some Oregon gear for you on
All
Monday.
right. All
Can't
right.
wait to talk about the Ducks when they sign Walter Nolan, Dante Moore, and an Oklahoma offensive lineman this week.
Yeah, I can't.
Let's go, buddy.
We can't wait.
Fired up.
Yeah.
Fired up. All right, that'll do it for us. If you missed any of the show, go check the Service Patriots podcast, 1080thefan.com. The YouTube. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Watch the Winterhawks against the Spokane Chiefs tomorrow night on the CW. That will do it for us. We'll talk to you Monday at 6 a.m. Calling us next. Listening to 1080 The Fan.
I'm Tristan Crick with BetQL. College basketball.